On November 13th. So if that's okay with you, maybe we can start now. It's now what o'clock? What time? And then there would be an introduction, an opening speech by whoever will be the speaker that you will appoint in the shadow parliament already. So we act now as a shadow parliament.
That's correct.
Yes.
Sort of saying that we start with a sort of station identification, what we are about.
Yes, yeah. So can we do that now? Make a practice and while waiting for the others, and then the second hour will now be the discussion hour. No. The second hour would be the presentation hour of the various presidential boards that would like to lay their platform to us on this aspect. If they do not believe in this, they should not be joining us. They do not believe in a parliamentary system of government, then they should not be joining us. Because we are not a group where they can campaign, really. Because we do not profess to have live streaming of 1 million or more for the moment.
We don't have the. I think some of us are being. Our little meeting here is being monitored by some people who are listening in their platforms. But they are not joining. They are not really joining us. So it's good to identify what we are about. We are the 1899 Parliament or 1899 Congress. We are talking about. We are advocates of a shift to a parliament. And the main instrument that we are advocating to use as a reset button is the 1899 Constitution, which can be updated to fit modern requirements of the country. So we are a group that started meeting on June 19, the birthday of Dr. Jose Rizal, which that happened to be a Saturday, so we started there. And we had been meeting for the past. Saturday mornings, 8 to 12 noon on Manila time, talking about what can be done. And we were also advocating and listening to some people who were guests who reviewed the history of the Malolos Constitution with us, who talked about salient points of parliamentarism, who talked about stuff like what we have been doing in terms of the actual experience of our country regarding the 1899 histories and the recent events that led us into a situation where we are not a parliament, but we are instead a presidential system, and that system has been already, we've been talking about it as a system that has been overwhelmed by corruption. And so the reason why we are advocating shift to parliament is that not as a constitutional amendment issue, but as a cure to the systemic corruption that has overwhelmed our system. Why do we talk about that being overwhelmed? Because right now, even our choice of leaders, which is supposed to be a source of renewal for our system, has been already corrupted. We had documented the fact that our registries right now in the elections, we have documented that fact that the election registries are heavily padded with a lot of voters, actually about maybe in the millions, maybe 10 million. And so what we are advocating is a process that will at least will not only mitigate but will abolish this threat to the process of choice. As I've said, the total system that we have has been corrupted, totally corrupted. So if the system to renew our leadership has been corrupted, then from that waterfall process, everything else that is sourced from that waterfall is also corrupted or polluted water. That is why our system has become totally corrupt. How is that done? How is this done? Since 2010, we had been we've been using an automated election system, but as we know, since that time, Commissioner Mello, he was the chairman of that Comelec at the time. He issued a very bold statement saying that if he can assure a clean election using the automated process, then he will resign. After the elections, Glenn Chong came up with documentation, Attorney Glenn Chong, showing how corrupt the PICOS machines were. And in January the next year, Chairman Mello resigned. He was not able to answer those allegations of Glenn Chong. And so after 2010, we also experienced the 2013 elections wherein I think Lex Muega of the Ateneo, I think political science or statistics office, he's a mathematics professor in Ateneo. He showed a pattern of the distribution of votes, where 60% of the Senate votes went to the administration, 30% went to the opposition, and then 10% went to the independents, which created a 6-4-2 pattern in the election results for the 12 senators. It was also in this year that, if you recall, we had this unusual shoot up of the votes of Grace Poe as senatorial top-notcher ahead of the total count of votes of the Comelec. And then when it was pointed out, the Smartmatic just in a cavalier fashion said, oh, pan lang yan, computer glitch lang yan. And then they changed it back, and but still Grace Poe became the top-notcher. But anecdotal stories at the time said that Noy Noy ordered the Comelec and said, bahala na kayo mag-top-notcher dyan. Kung sinong top-notcher, basta hindi si Loren Legarda. That is a very strong order of Noy Noy. I think he was afraid of Loren Legarda because he was popular. In fact, the real top-notcher at that time is Loren Legarda. And then the top-notcher status of Grace Poe was a manufactured status. This is how our elections are manipulated, because senatorial rankings produces presidentials. That is why it's very important to watch these rankings, and that is what this syndicate does. The syndicates in Comelec have been in existence. They were in existence during the time of Marcos. They were in existence after Marcos in 1987, and they have gone on steroids after 2010. It doesn't mean that just because you are in power that the Comelec syndicate should follow you. They do not care whether you are in power or not. The important thing for them is that you have the money to pay them, and then they will do your bidding. However, there is an advantage of incumbency. Because with incumbency, and if the incumbent bribes them and hires them to work for them, they have also the guaranteed protection after the incumbents win, because the incumbents will protect them from any investigation. As you have noticed, anything that happens after the elections, hindi natutuloy ang kahit anong investigasyon sa Comelec. And pag sinimulan nila yan, by the time na simulan nila, the investigation flows in a very glacial pace, darating na yung next 3-year election cycle. Takot na itong mga nag-iimbestiga, baka mabanatan sila ng Comelec kasi hindi pa nila natanggal itong mga Comelec within the 3-year interval period. So it becomes a vicious cycle of the continuous dominance of this Comelec syndicates. And their main ammunition are the tens and millions of padded voters that are there. How do they manufacture these voters? Very simple. When you die, they don't write you off. Okay, so you remain in the books. When you transfer your vote, so you go somewhere else, then you also remain with a double registry. And then if you are a 15-year-old in their list of barangay voters, they upgrade you to 18-year-old so that you can vote in the mainstream. Okay? And if you are also something in the overseas voter ka na, boboto ka na ng overseas voting pero bumoboto ka pa rin sa local, yung luma mong registration. So that is how they do these things. On top of that, they have flying voters, no? Do you vote in Cavite? Then you vote in Tondo? Okay, but they don't care about your registration. They will just create one registration, have a middle name, the other does not have a middle name, different addresses. Flying voter ka na. So even if you vote only in one place, they will know by their monitoring of the voting, if hindi mo ibinotong registry, boboto nila yun sa kanilang padded voters. And the stories of Melchor Magdamo, the former attorney of the Comelec, said that there are islands in the Palawan area that delivers like 10,000 votes, but there are only 100 houses there. And so this is like Attorney Melchor Magdamo, who served under the Melo Commission in 2010. And he said that he associated with the Comelec Smartmatic syndicates, drinking sprees with them and having buddy-buddy with them, and he knows that they exist only to cheat. And they are again present here in our 2022 elections. So I said the whole system is rotten. The presidential system is rotten. On top of that, we have a fixed system like the, what do you call this? The fixed system of votes, fixed system of tenure for the presidency. If I were an oligarch and I will invest in a presidential ball, then he wins, I am assured of recouping my money for the next 6 years. Kasi may fixed tenure ng presidente. In a parliamentary system na ang tenure mo ay based sa confidence ng peers mo sa gobyerno mo, itong mga oligarchs will have no sure period of time to recoup their investment. Kaya hindi bibitaw ng mga pera yan. So a parliamentary system with a clean election
kay Ate Kat.
and with a
Talaga.
Everyone, please mute. Everyone, please mute.
this guy, I mean, you people should be muted. Mel, can you watch these things and you try to mute them out? I think I have not given Mel yet the co-host capabilities. I'll give him that. Anyway, I'm continuing with the talk I was saying that our system is totally corrupt from the election process and into the recouping process of rent-seeking behavior of oligarchs who try to recoup their investments during the 6-year, 10-year period. So that is why this group came about. We want a system of vigilance that is promoted in the question hour of Parliament, which is not present at all in the presidential system. As you will note right now, we have a situation where the Senate is investigating certain anomalies in the procurement of medical equipment and medical supplies, as well as also the vaccines itself. And the Senate is being barred from hearing the things that should be heard from the witnesses. Witnesses are being barred to attend. Such an event will never happen in a parliamentary system. Because in a parliamentary system, there is no press conferences. The press covers the question hour. It is power questioning power. A prime minister faces his peers, like his or her peers in parliament, who are also elected members of parliament, and they can question him at any time every week. That is the setup in most of this parliamentary government. So we have an answer to systemic corruption in the systemic vigilance of the question hour. This is something that has not been propagated by our people who are promoting this parliamentary system. They couch it in terms of a constitutional proposal, a constitutional change proposal, which should not be the case. It should be couched in terms of a prescription to clean out our corrupt system. It is not just a constitutional change issue, it is a prescription as an answer to our corrupt system. That should be how this thing has to be marketed or explained to our people. But what is happening here is that's not the case. This is presented as a constitutional amendment issue, which should not be the case. Kaya ang nangyayari, sasabihin nila, constitutional amendment tayo. Hindi pwede yan. Marami tayong problema. Meron tayong pandemic, meron tayong corruption, mga ganun. Kaya nga, yung corruption ay magpupure nito ng parliament question hour. It just so happened that it has to be done through a constitutional process of amending our constitution. But this is a cure to corruption. It is not a constitutional issue anymore. It is a cure to systemic corruption that we are going through. And this is what our group is mainly about. We are proposing the use of the 1899 Constitution as the reset button because it is a constitution that is a gift to us from our founding fathers. It is a constitution that has been created by a free and sovereign people without any intervention or influence from foreign sources. And it has never been abrogated by the Filipino people. And all the other constitutions that followed were foreign influence. And also even the Marcos Constitution was still controlled or subject to international pressure because of the Nixon-Kissinger advocacy of supporting strongman rule all over the world at that time. So this kind of shift is something that can be done by our group, and that is how this 1899 Parliament movement was born. And so we are now in the process of winding up our sessions for the past year, this year, which was from June to June 19 to November 30. We have 3 more session days after this day. We have 3 more days. For those of you listening there, maybe later on you can join us in these other 3 days, which will follow, which is November 13, and also November 20, and November 27. And then we will have a special session on November 30 to be able to adjourn our business for adjourn Sine Die for the whole year, this year. We will resume again on January 8th. That is the first Saturday of January. And we will continue onwards to the period of the elections and onwards until June, which is our semi-annual adjournment. Not yet adjournment for the year, but just for the semester. And so we will be covering the election period during the time. And we will be using the time now, between now and on November 30, our adjournment, and the whole month of December, to professionalize our system so that we can communicate our message more to more and more people. And yung mas marami tayo magawa, matranslate natin ang mga sinasabi natin, ayusin natin ang ating YouTube channel into a real TV channel na magbo-broadcast. Ayusin natin yung ating crowdsourcing kasi right now, ang nangyayari, we are just a loose movement of individuals. And we are just really doing ad hoc expenditures, covering this for that and that, but in a very informal sense. So to me, it is not a steady process. No, even if we have a strong sponsor, which we don't have, with unlimited logistics, we still will need the collective effort of people who believe in what they're doing to systematically raise funds, not necessarily from our own resources, from our own pockets, but necessarily also through a process of cooperating with each other through some ways to maybe develop some income from web operations or whatever else, or networking processes, similar to an evolution into a party, a political party similar to the United Malaysia National Organization, the UMNO of Malaysia. It is a party that has evolved and is in business. They have businesses to support party work, and they always they were quite dominant for many years in Malaysia before the opposition party was able to take over power from them. So we have to do this, and that introduction is maybe what Kasani Domingo was looking for, so that those who are joining us for the first time will know what we are about. So although you see only a few names there that are logging in and entering our group, our sessions are monitored and streamed into the other groups that we have. We have a shadow set of Facebook groups that are linked to this. We have a YouTube channel, and we have also other groups that Facebook groups as well that are not in the shadow family, but are also linked to this. So if there are any questions, I have 5 more minutes before the 8:30 slot that was allocated by Kasani. For any questions from the group as to what they want to know about our 1899 Parliament, I am ready for
Mr. Ramos, good morning po.
Yes,
So what
go
will
ahead.
be the plan po for the cheating syndicate of Comelec and Smart Magic?
Can we first get back to the topic before we go into that? If I may suggest, let's have
Okay, go ahead.
who is serving as speaker now. If this is a special session for the Coalition of the Commons, I would volunteer to be the coordinator for this and put things in order. So, for example, when you open your video, could you please like your face so we can see your pugginess and beauty? And also, of course, we need some formality when we get into this on November 30. We would like to propose that everyone should at least have a polo barong. Will be in a polo barong, and that everyone should be on the should close their audio when someone is speaking, and only open your audio when you are recognized. And on that house rule, we should try to limit other comments coming in or other questions coming in that would be particular. We are a group that is general. We are not yet a group that is particular. Particular questions and answers to particular questions should be kept among ourselves. Otherwise, we would be splitting ourselves into many other interest groups afterwards. If you may add anything, I may want to add anything, engineer and Prof. And if you have a suggestion, EY, please bring it forward.
Kasani,
Your question, yeah.
Kasani, I have a suggestion. That you should be a little bit harsh to this particular issues, because you know why? Sometimes other people are only you wanted only to do you know why? We could call it chismis, no? Akala nila chismis lang itong ginagawa natin. So may I remind everyone who are here to please turn on your audio and video. If not, then Mel, would you cancel them? If they cannot follow the rule, so be it. We don't like them. If they don't like us, we don't like them either.
No, the situation, I think I want to amend this. Mr. Speaker, can I have the floor? Kasani, you are the speaker, sitting speaker right now.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
I would like to not be so harsh. maybe the only request you would say we would ask from our people participating is that when they speak, they turn on their video so that we can see them while they are speaking when they want to speak. But it's okay for them to just be there and even without turning the video, and we can request that if you're just asking a brief question, they can remain without a video. But when they are speaking to explain their own point of view, then I think we will request them as a matter of courtesy to turn on their video. Would that amendment suffice, Engineer Lorque?
Yes, I just only
Yeah.
suggest that because what we want is transparent. So how could it be transparent if you are hiding your face?
No, that's
So that
okay.
is non-transparent. So that's why
Okay.
I advise Mel, if they don't want to turn on their audio and video, please, so be it. If they want to leave, then they could leave.
No, I think we should make that rule very more formal during our resumption of sessions next year on January 8th. We can explain this to all the people who have been joining us. We can send them emails and send them PMs explaining what we are about, so that when they come back for our other sessions, they will know what we are about. Because some of them in most of our sessions are just going in for the first time, and maybe because we don't explain what we are about, then they do not understand what we're talking about, where we're coming from. That is why the suggestion of Kasan is that we start to identify ourselves at the very start. That's what I did for the past 30 minutes, explaining the main reason why we have come in together as a movement to support a shift to the parliamentary question hour system as an answer to the systemic corruption that our country is undergoing. So that is just my suggestion.
Okay. Okay, may I suggest, pwede bang ang video manager natin, yung rule na yon laging nakasulat so that nababasa. And so, i-recognize natin si Mirna, maganda, pinakita niya kung saan siya, saan lugar siya, at pwede ko kayong magsalita ng introduction ninyo sa pag-join nyo sa amin habang nakikinig po kayo kay Prof. Hil Ramos. After that po, tuloy na naman tayo. So, welcome, Mirna. Okay.
Good morning po from Cebu City.
Okay, go ahead po. Meron kayong gustong introduction ninyo at bakit kayo napasali dito at may oras pa tayo konti.
Okay po, salamat po. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. It's an honor na nandito ako ngayon na nakikinig din sa inyo para may marami din po akong malalaman at maging aware po sa nangyayari ngayon sa ating kapaligiran. At higit sa lahat, malalaman ang mga nakaraan na mga magagandang examples na pwede nating magiging batayan sa ngayong nangyayari sa ating panahon. So, yan po.
Okay, maraming salamat po sa pagsali ninyo. Para makita ko namin yung buong background nyo, ikot-ikot lang nyo yung camera nyo para mag-iba-iba ang background nyo. Ano po, ako naman naghanap ako ng background ko na kahoy. So, yan na lang. Mamaya ikutin ko rin. Ayun, kahoy pa rin. So, ganun lang po ang gawin natin. Ayun, maganda yun sa'yo ngayon, yung kahoy. At saka ano pang background ninyo. Wag na lang muna yung mga pagkain dahil gugutumin tayo dito. Okay ba? Ayos ba kayo dyan? So, makinig lang po kayo at ituloy-tuloy natin ang programa. Ang programa ito, parang trial run ito ng November 13 natin. So, nagsimula tayo na kanina, hindi nyo narinig yung pambansang awit natin. Pero parang narinig ako kanina na sinimulan nung manager natin sa video. Pinakita niya yung mga picture ng mga kaganapan ng Malulus Congress at ni-request natin si Prof. Hil na mag-introduce kung ano ba itong grupo natin ito. At ang hindi niya na may oras pa naman, siguro baka Prof. Hil madagdagan mo ano ba yung istorya nitong Malulus Congress para malaman ng mga gaya ng mga bago natin. Bago lang ba kayo, Kamina? Pakisagot lang.
Opo. So, parang sa akin, napakagandang opportunity po na may matututunan ako dahil hindi ko pa kabisado po masyado yung mga
Sige.
kaganapan.
Sige, anong
So,
sektor ba kayo? Anong sektor kayo? Sektor ng may bahay o sektor ng mayaman na may bahay o sektor na magsasaka, sektor ng mga manggagawa, ano bang mga sektor po kayo? Sektor po ng
May
yung
bahay.
kababayan. Huwag naman yung kababayan na nangagaw ng bahay ng may bahay at asawa ng may asawa. Anong sektor po kayo?
Concerned citizen po.
Concerned citizen po. Diyan kayo sa Cebu. Saan sa Cebu kayo ngayon?
Sa
Anong
Cebu
bayan
po.
yan?
Cebu
Cebu.
City.
Cebu proper. Ganyan pala ang weather niyo ngayon. Walang ulan. Ano po? O kaya mabuti nasa labas ka dahil walang ulan ngayon. O sige po, tuloy tayo. Pakisara lang po yung audio ninyo para hindi marinig yung sigaw ng aso niyo dyan. Kung may aso mamaya. At ituloy na po natin. Profil, can you do the honors of continuing?
Yes, we
with the
have
background?
also Mr. Julio Ingay who also opened his video. Maybe he has something to tell us. You could give him the floor, Mr. Speaker. That's him now.
Go ahead,
Julio,
please.
yeah. Magandang umaga sa iyo, Julio.
Paki-unmute lang.
I'm trying to unmute him.
Naka-mute ka.
Magsalita na po kayo.
Hindi ka marinig.
Ayan na.
Good morning po. Good morning po. Naimbitahan po ni Brad EY. Ay kinig lang po sir tungkol sa mga mga in-explain niyo po. Yun lang po. Good morning po.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Cagayan de Oro ka rin, Julio?
Sukat Muntinlupa po.
I see.
Thank you po.
You have any Sonny, you have any particular question you would like me to elaborate on para ma-explain ako ng mas detalyado yung tanong ninyo about our background? Can you make it more specific?
Tungkol po sa background. Kuwan po ako sa Gising Maharlika. Bali kami po ni na Professor Nick Perlas po yung nagkukuha po ng CND letter sa mga mayors. Isa po akong kuha ng Gising Maharlika po.
Okay, all right.
Okay, welcome Gising Maharlika. Pakibukas lang ang video nyo kung nagsasalita po kayo para makilala namin kayo. So tuloy po tayo kay Profil, babalik po tayo at babalikan niya tayo nung panahon ng Malolos Congress kung paano nagsimula, ano yung sinusulong natin para ituloy natin yung Malolos Congress at nasabi na niya kanina kung ano dapat ang mga gagawin natin, expectations natin at anong magagalawin natin. At mamaya pagka sa 9 o'clock na, anong oras na ba ngayon? Ako naman magbasa ng introductory statement para sa session ngayon na tinatawagan natin special session ng Shadow Parliament on Coalition of the Commons at sana masamahan tayo ng mga representative ng mga presidential boards natin, yung mga vice presidents natin, gaya ng pagsama nila sa atin, usually sumasama sila ng mga 9 o'clock. So habang hinihintay sila, Profil, can you continue para lalong malaman ni Aling Mirna kung anong pinag-usapan natin dito.
Sonny, bago tayo magpunta muna sa iba, yung mga sina John Abiso, sina Andy, sina Alondra, pwede natin mapakinggan muna ang kanilang side?
Okay, go ahead please. Pakibukas yung video nyo.
Let us listen to Jun Albiso. He is joining us, I think, from Marihatag, Surigao. I don't know if he has enough bandwidth to be able to open up. Okay, Jun, can you address us? Can you also open your video if possible?
Magandang umaga sa lahat. Naririnig ba ako?
Yes, narinig ka namin.
Opo.
Okay. Kasi pahina yung bandwidth ko rito eh. Ito nga, may nakasabi, yung network bandwidth is low. Anyway,
Okay.
I am Jun Alviso. I am the Executive Director of Filipinas Quincentenario, isang grupo na susulong sa ika-500th year ng Quincentenario ng ating paniniwala at ang pagsusulong ng paniniwalang ang pagkabuhay ng ating bansang Pilipinas. No? At ngayon, ako isang administrator sa local LGU Marihatag. Nandito ako ngayon sa Marihatag, Surigao del Sur at mamasid-basid lang po sa 1898 shift to the 1898 Constitution. Ito po isang oportunidad na mabigyang buhay yung ating Constitution na matagal lang hindi natin napapansin, humihinga pa. So, yan, patuloy tayong nakikialam dito sa mga kaganapan sa 1898 at andito lang po ako sa Marihatag nakikinig. Pero aktibo po akong sumasali sa mga talakayan kahit hindi minsan ako nakakapag-online dahil nga sa connection ko rito sa Surigao. So, magandang umaga ulit sa inyong lahat at ako'y nakikinig lang po. Sasali rin mamaya-maya.
Yeah, okay. Welcome po. May mga bagong pangalan. Nakita ko, Miss Hopper. Hindi ko makita dito sa akin, pero kung lang ho, mag-shout lang kayo kung gusto nyong magbukas na ng video nyo at mag-introduce na sarili nyo kung pwede. Dahil importante, sama-sama tayo dito. Bawat tao may pananaw, may isip, may idea. Wag ko kayong matakot na magbigay ng idea. Wag lang muna kayo mag-speech ng isang oras po dito para marinig natin lahat. So, may nakita akong Miss Hopper. Welcome, Miss Hopper. Palagay ko Cotabato area kayo.
She put on her video a while ago. So, Christy, can you address us and tell us about yourself? Kumusta? Now she has unmute. Okay, there.
Okay, there.
All right. I think we can hear her now.
Okay. May buntag, I just saw this Zoom link. Ako ang Zoom link. It's a Zoom link for a prayer group. I just saw it and it says Constitution 1891. So I just clicked on it not knowing exactly what you're going to be talking about, but it sounds interesting. So i-join in ko. Actually, nagbiyahe ko karon na ako sa auto. But I'm in the car right now. I'm headed to Laguna. But it seems interesting. So while on the road, makikinig ako kung ano yung pag-uusapan. Has this something to do with federalism? I don't know kung anong topic natin ngayon. I just joined in.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, Mr.
Cotabato, correct. Cotabato. Daddy nako, he used to be in politics and we used to be in logging.
Yeah.
The Hoopers are from Cotabato.
Miss Hopper, welcome. This is Sonny Domingo. I used to work with a certain John Hopper yata.
Ay, daddy nako to, sir.
That is your daddy. Pugi yun.
Yes.
Pugi yun.
Yes,
So,
yes.
If he's still around, give him my regards. If you remember Sonny Domingo, who used to work with the Political Affairs Office of President Marcos, and we were helping the MNLF get out of their shadows to join the government, and which happened during that time. Nag-surrender naman si Aburka Iralonto, nag-surrender si Commander Ronnie, nag-surrender si Kajimi. I developed a livelihood program, and Jan Hopper was always with us, helping us with their advice and whatever we had during those days. So, regards po sa kanya.
Unfortunately, sir, wala na si daddy. He passed 1997. It's been like more than 20 years. Medyo matagal na po.
Ibig sabihin, naiwanan na naman ako nito. Okay, nawala na din si Aburka Iralonto.
Wala na. Sila Alonto po, I call them uncles growing up. Uncle tawag namin sa kanila dahil parati sila nasa bahay.
Okay, so you must have heard of Ben Yanesa during those days when your
Yes,
father was very
yes.
active.
Uncle Ben, we
Okay.
call him Uncle Ben, DENR.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I used to work with him. Okay,
Baka
we worked
sakali
together.
po, baka sakali po we get the chance to meet each other. Are you Manila based or Davao based?
I am Philippine based. Ibig sabihin, I can be anywhere upon anyone's invitation as a senior citizen. Okay,
Correct.
but
Tama po kayo.
I'm now in the mountains of Antipolo. If you see my background, this is where I live, and this is where what surrounds me. Beautiful houses, and I am in the field most of the day. Okay, but for today, I am at home. Okay. So anyone else who would like to introduce himself, please shout out now.
Well, briefly, Mr. Speaker, to be able to tell Christy what we are about, and also for the others, we are a group advocating a shift to parliament, not necessarily federal, but just a shift to the parliament. Why? Because to us, the parliamentary system with a question hour, wherein the heads of government have to answer to the governed every week, is a good antidote to systemic corruption. Kasi pag sumasagot ka sa kapwa mo member of parliament kung anong ginagawa mo sa gobyerno, ikaw ay prime ministro, you will take care to be always in the right side of the law. Kasi baka mawala ng confidence sa iyo ang parliament at kayo matanggal ka agad sa administrasyon ninyo. So that kind of systemic, that kind of transparency and systemic vigilance is a cure to systemic corruption. That is why we are advocating a shift to parliament. And we are supporting the revival of the 1899 Constitution because it is a parliament and it is a constitution that was never abrogated by the Filipino people. So we can easily shift to it without necessarily dropping constitutionalism in our governance. Kaya yan ang brief answer po,
Okay.
Ms. Christie.
Okay.
And then the other things that happen here, we are also monitoring developments in our politics. We also follow what is happening in our politics. Like right now, we are in the election season. Medyo election ngayon, kaya napag-uusapan din dito kung sino ang mga kandidato. But we are not supporting any candidate, any particular candidate. But we are supporting all candidates who are supporting a shift to the parliament constitution. And one of them, for instance, is the Partido Federal of Bongbong Marcos. He is now the chairman of that, and they are shifting to a federal parliamentary system. That's one of their advocacies. Also, the two PDP Laban factions, supposedly this faction ni Cusi at saka faction ni Pimentel, in their constitution, they're supposed to support federalism and parliamentarism. But their candidates right now, Bato de la Rosa and Pacquiao, are not mentioning this at all in their interviews. Pacquiao is more interested in asking for the apology of Marcos rather than talking about parliamentarism. And the other candidates who are not advocating parliament is something that we don't care to support. We have yet to hear from Isko if he is supporting parliament. We have yet to hear from Lacson if he is supporting parliament. Definitely, Robredo is not supporting parliament. All of them are bent on continuing the rotten presidential system that we have. We call the presidential system rotten because it is not able to correct all of this corruption at the very center of our Comelec processes, of our election processes. Kaya, ayaw na namin ng presidential system. Ang sino mong kandidato na sumusuporta ng shift to parliament, yun ang aming re-recommenda na suportahan ng mga nakikinig at sumasali dito sa ating plenary session. Halimbawa, si Pacquiao at saka si Marcos magsabi na sila ay for the parliament. Si Marcos talaga nagsabi na. Si Pacquiao hindi pa. Kung silang dalawa lang nagsasabi, di pagpilian nyo sila. Pero yung mga ibang mga hindi sumusuporta sa parliament, ayaw natin sa kanila. Kasi sawa na tayo sa presidential rotten system. We have been having it for the past decades after independence in 1946 up to now, and our presidential system has not served us well. It was working a little bit effectively during the phase when it has a two-party system because we always get a majority president. But now, a presidential system under a multi-party system always produces a minority president. and we just end up with political infighting all the time, with gridlock and nothing getting accomplished because we don't have a majority president who is governing the country. In a parliament, the majority party with its coalition partners will always be a majority, and therefore we can have more unison and orchestration in what we do. That's why we're supporting parliament. We are not attacking those who are not supporting parliament, but we will not support them come election day.
Okay.
So, any more questions? I would like to answer questions specifically from the group that are new here. And they can, pwede magtanong ng diretso kasi para hindi sabog ang pagsagot ko, ang pag-explain ko kung paano tayo nagkakaisa rito at nagsasama-sama at mapag-usapan tuwing Sabado itong ating mga kuro-kuro sa pagpunta sa Parlamento. Kami po, Ms. Christie, had been meeting since June 19, yung birthday ni Rizal. Every Saturday po, nagmi-meeting kami. Nag-uusap-usap tungkol sa kung paano natin magagawang magkaroon tayo ng paglipat mula sa presidential system papunta sa isang parliamentary system. At saka ang meeting na ito ay magpapatuloy hanggang November 30, birthday ni Bonifacio. Doon tayo mag-adjourn sine die for the year. Pagkatapos sa buong December, wala tayong meeting. Pero sa Enero 8, January 8, the first Saturday of January, we will continue meeting again every Saturday. And that will also coincide with the presidential election, with the campaign, because the campaign will start February to April. And we will be, I definitely assure you that the coming meetings next year, which will be every Saturday, will be very interesting meetings because by that time, the candidacies will have already matured and they will already have their own messaging as to what they are. And we will force these candidacies to address the issue of why they don't like to shift the parliament. So we will force them to answer that. And if they say they want a presidential system with a runoff system, maybe we can also consider that as a transitory process. But what we are supporting is a French type, wherein the people still elect the president directly, but we elect a parliament that will produce a prime minister that will do internal governance of the country. So hindi totoo yung sinasabi nila na pag mag-parliament na tayo ay hindi na makaka-elect ng presidente. He will still elect our president directly because our president will be in charge of foreign relations and be in charge of the military. But our prime minister will be elected from the members of parliament. He will be in charge of internal governance, and he will also be in charge of the internal police force, the PNP. That will be his military force to do internal policing of law and order. But our president, elected by the people directly, is in charge of foreign affairs. Our vice president will be elected with the president in black. You could no longer split votes. When you vote for a president, his vice president goes with him. Para hindi na pwedeng magkagulo, gaaway-away presidente, vice president, gulo palagi. Pag binotohan ng presidente isa, kasama niya ang vice president, sasali siya doon. Kasali siya sa ticket. Ngayon, silang dalawa ang in charge ng foreign affairs natin at saka ng ating military. Yung presidente pa rin ng commander-in-chief at yung may-elect na vice president ay diretsong Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yun immediately ang magharap sa ibang bansa tungkol sa paggawa ng ating foreign policy. Tapos, ang ating sistema ay parang sinasabing French system, no? Which is sometimes described by political scientists as a semi-parliament or a semi-presidential system. That is what our group is advocating. The reason why we are advocating this is because it is a cure to systemic corruption. Na corrupt na ng gusto ang ating proseso ng paggogobyerno sa Pilipinas. Ang pinaka-corrupt na nangyayari ngayon ay meron tayong 10 million padded voters sa Comelec at meron tayong Comelec na hinahawakan ng sindikato ng Smartmatic. At ang mga padded voters na yan ang kanilang bala sa pandaya. Ang teknik ng pandaya nila, sasabihin nila sa mga kandidato, ay kampanya kayo. Dapat marami kayong mga air war, mga advertisement para kunyari, at bayaran nyo yung mga nagpo-polling para mataas kayo sa poll. Tapos bahala na kami sa counting para lamang ka kahit na basta kailangan konti lang ang medyo lamang sa iyo ng kalaban, no? Kaya nating layain yan. Kaya dapat kumampanya rin kayo at saka kunyari namimili kayo ng boto para may rason kung bakit kayo nanalo. That is the way they have been conducting our election. They pad on the margins. Kaya you will note, nagkaroon tayo ng interruption noong 2016. Dinaya nila si Bongbong Marcos. Nagkaroon tayo ng interruption sa count noong 2019. Biglang sumumpit at si Cynthia Villar at saka nagkaroon ng point na mas mataas pang bilang ng boto ni Villar kaysa sa boto ng mga nabilang na boto. Yan ang mga kalokohang ginagawa ng ating sistema. Kaya we are done with that. We don't like that. We want to shift our presidential rotten system into the parliamentary system that is better, that could better serve what we are. So you can elaborate, you can give me more questions if you want me to elaborate on that as well. Any questions from any new? Yes, I think
Sir.
Christy is raising a point.
Sir, I have a question. Excuse my ignorance, but ngayon lang ako napasabak sa mga ganitong usapan. But anyway, what is the guarantee that if we shift to a parliamentary system, wala na yung dayaan using Smartmatic?
Ganito kasi yan. Ang dayaan na nangyayari, ang isang rason kung bakit may dayaan dahil sa binibili mo yan yung mga Comelec Smartmatic. Kahit na ikaw ay presidente, basta wala kang pambili sa kanila, hindi sila susunod sa'yo. They just go to the highest bidder. So kahit na
It's manipulated.
kahit na ikaw yung position, basta may pera ka, they only respect the color of money. Basta may pera ka, kahit na opposition ka, papanuhunin ka nila kung kaya nilang ipad ng mga boto nila yung boto mo. Ngayon, bakit ang presidential system ay more attuned para dyan? Kasi sa presidential system po, kailangan mo maraming pera sa eleksyon, di ba? Para bibilhin yung mga boto ng tao at bibilhin pati yung bilang ng Comelec at Smartmatic. Ngayon, meron kang 6 years. 6 years ang tenure ng isang presidente. So ang isang oligarko na nag-i-invest sa presidente, meron siyang panahon na 6 years para makabawi sa kanyang binitawang pera. Sa parliamentary system, walang kasiguruhan yan. Kasi anytime na magkaroon ka ng loss of confidence, kahit na 1 taon ka pa lang dyan o 6 na buwan ka pa lang at saka binoto na ng members of parliament, ayaw na namin sa gobyerno nitong prime minister. Bagsak na yan. So ngayon, since ang prime minister ang humahawak ng internal governance ng bansa, hindi na makakabawi yung nag-invest sa kanya ng pera. So ang gagawin ng mga oligarko ngayon, hindi na bibitaw ng malalaking pera na katulad ng binabatawan ngayon, bilyon-bilyon. Ang kailangan mong manalo ngayon para magsimula ka lang ng credible campaign ay mga 20 billion pesos. At para manalo ka, kailangan mo ng 40 billion to 100 billion. At saka kailangan kung ganong klase ang ating eleksyon. Kaya mga oligarko tumataya ng gusto sa mga gusto nilang maging presidente kasi lahat ng malaki kontrata hawak nila for 6 years. Pero sa isang parliamentary system, wala silang kasiguruhan na ang bata nila hawak ng pamahalaan for 6 years. Kaya mababawasan ang pagpasok ng mga perang ganyang kalaki, dirty money, ika nga, para pambili ng mga rent-seeking businesses kung saan kamal-kamal ang pera nila para pagbawi sa taong bayan. So that is one reason why a parliamentary system will improve our process of elections of our tribunes of the people.
Prof, could you explain anong mangyari sa Comelec in addition to Ms. Hopper's question? Kung naging parliament tayo, nandiyan pa rin yung Comelec or wala na yung Comelec?
Now, in many countries of the world, I think there are only two or three countries that have a national Comelec. One of them is India, and I think another country that I have researched and found out to have a Comelec. We don't have to have necessarily a what do you call this, a Comelec that is constitutionally protected. Yan ang kalokohang nangyari sa atin ngayon kasi ang ating Comelec ay protected ng constitution natin in a presidential system. At least ang Comelec ng India, ang kanilang Commission on Elections doon, ay subject to control ng parliament. Hindi presidential system ang India, parliament sila eh. Kaya medyo controlled nila ang kanilang Comelec. Tayo dito, ang ating presidential system, hindi na sasawata, hindi na ko-control at all ng presidente ang Comelec. Kasi ang sindikato, protected sila ng constitution. They are beyond the reach of the president. Kasi they are a separate body. Kaya kahit na presidente pa si Rodrigo Duterte, gusto niya mandaya sa eleksyon, at hindi niya hawak yung Comelec na nasa loob na ang syndicate na nasa loob ng Comelec, pwedeng ang kandidato siya dayain. Kasi constitutionally protected yan. Sa United States, there is no constitutionally protected Comelec. It is the elections are done by the I think their local state officials, yung state department nila sa federal system nila. So dahil sa federal system naman ng United States, hindi nagkakaroon ng malakihang nationwide na dayaan. Ginagawa ito at the statewide basis. Kaya yun ang mga banat ni Donald Trump. Nung dinaya siya, binabanatan niya yung mga state governments. So ito naman ngayon ang isa-isa niyang binibira. So dito, pero sa Pilipinas, once mandaya constitutionally protected, it will be done nationwide. At saka, pag naproklama ka na, yung ating SPPET na nakita natin ay inutil. It is inutil. It is an inutil body to be able to correct or do electoral redress of electoral grievances. As we have seen in the 5-year protest in the BP elections. Wherein
Kuya, doon.
naproklama na si BP, Liani, wala nang magawa. Kahit na marami pang tanong, yung SCPET is also corrupt. Kahit na nakalagay sa ating constitution na dapat in 2 years time, madesisyon na ng election, walang nangyari. Hindi rin sinunod ng constitution. 5 taon, inupuan lang ng mga SCPET justices. That is how unfair and corrupt our Supreme Court Presidential Electoral Tribunal system also is. Kaya kailangan talagang, ang suggestion ko, under a parliamentary system, hindi na magkakaroon ng constitutional body na independent. It will just be done by the local provincial canvassers together with maybe the Supreme Court or the justices, no, or the Department of Justice. Para so that they are not constitutionally protected, kung gumawa sila ng kalokohan, pwedeng maakusahan at pwedeng mapatawan ng tamang kaparusahan.
Okay, ang dagdagan ko lang, Christy. Actually, ang Pilipinas ay naging copycat lang ng Amerika. Okay? Ngayon, dahil copycat tayo ng Amerika, tayo na lang naiiwan sa Asia na presidential, hindi parliament. So, pero pangit din tayo na copycat kasi yung mga hindi dapat na nangyayari, nangyayari sa atin dahil hindi natin na-correct ang sarili natin. Panahon ngayon na i-correct natin. So for example, now we are trying to practice what we call a shadow parliament. Itong mga kasama natin ngayon volunteered to be a member of the shadow parliament. In my case, I represent the agriculture sector. Maybe in your case, you may want to represent the natural resources sector or whatever and join us to be able to go towards a parliamentary form of government. Kasi tayo na lang naiiwan talaga sa mundo. Tayo na lang ang democratic country na naiwan. Tayo na lang ang bansa na pinapakialaman palagi ng foreign intervention. Yet we have all the resources, the manpower, the skills, even the professionals. Imagine a country exporting slaves when we should be the one importing workers as we were before. Ang noong panahon, sino bang gumawa ng Intramuros? Mga Chinese yan. Hindi man Pilipino ang gumawa ng Intramuros because they were the OFWs of the world before, and we were the ones that were accepting them. But anyway, that's a poor explanation of what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, kung copycat ka na rin, ma'am, you should be better than doon sa kinuan mo, ginaya mo. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Tasani,
Okay, go ahead.
Nabanggit ni Professor Hill. Kasi may nagtatanong sa akin at may nag-question bakit daw na ang daming problema ng Pilipinas, bakit parliamentary pa ang napili natin na ipag-usapan. Pero to summarize, ang mga tao na nagreklamo tungkol dito ay mga tao rin na nagreklamo sa korupsyon. So doon sa nabanggit kanina may nagbanggit kanina tungkol sa Comelec, if we are in the parliamentary system of government, linggo-linggo o araw-araw doon sa mga member of the parliament, pwede natin sila matanong. Pwede sila matanong ng kanilang mga kasamahan. ay ang Prime Minister or President, linggo-linggo, pwede rin may tanong. Hindi kagaya ngayon, bilyon-bilyon na nawala na pira kung saan-saan mga ahensya ng gobyerno, walang nagtatanong. Kasi ang nagtatanong lang dito ay ang mga media lamang na binigay na nila doon ang kasagutan para hindi maligaw ang kanilang sagot sakali na tinanong sila bigla. Kaya may nag-comment ngayon na ang mga presidentiable dapat huwag magbigay ng mga katanungan na bago magpa-interview. Biglaan lang na interview dapat para malaman natin kung gaano kaganda ang kanyang mga kasagutan kumpara doon sa mga pinag-aralan mo na bago itanong. So, sa madaling salita, kagaya ng Comelec na yan, dahil kung member of the parliament ng Comelec chair, 5 member ng parliament, araw-araw pwede natin matanong, ano nangyari dyan sa 10 million padded voters? Tatanggal mo na ba yan? O ano ang, magkano ang halaga na naibigay ng iba dyan sa ganito, sa ganyan? So, sa madaling salita, madali maunawaan ng taong bayan at ang korupsyon ay maiwasan. So in short, the shift to parliamentary system of government is not what we should say constitutional crisis or whatsoever. This is the real solution to eliminate corruption. Salamat.
Okay, 5 to 9 na lang tayo. 5 minutes to go. Baka pwedeng gustong mag-comment si Mr. Manzanilla dahil binuksan niya yung video niya. Mr. Manzanilla, you have the floor.
Milma, you're asked to say something.
Ako na ba? Hello, good morning po.
Yes.
In short po, ang solution dyan sa padded voters, katulad ng recommendation ni Donald Trump na blockchain election yata. Nakalimutan ko yung ibang pangalan. Para daw, yung mga vibration ng mga cheating candidates, malalaman po agad. Ganun po.
Oh, that's technology solution.
Hello?
Yes, maliwanag.
Go ahead.
Problema lang yan.
Narinig ko niyo?
Nakapag-file na ang mga candidates ng kanilang kandidas eh. So hindi natin pwede apply na sabi ni Trump.
Ewan ko lang po. Kung pa naman yung suggestion po niya.
So sa ngayon,
Para maiwasan po yung
nagpalabas ang Comelec na 79% ng mga candidate ay eliminate. So sa madaling salita, mataas na 10 na presidential ang kanilang i-recognize. So dahil 87 sila, 87 ang mawala. So I am inviting in this 87 presidential, if they could join the coalition of the common, ilaban natin ang tama. Huwag yung paulit-ulit. Kasi ngayon, hanggang ngayon, di mo marinig sa mga kandidato na public utility ay ibalik sa gobyerno. Samantala sa konstitusyon ganyan. So napakaliwanag that the government at present does not recognize the constitution itself, which is considered the highest law of the land. So if they could not recognize it, so ano mangyari sa bansa natin? Wala tayong konstitusyon. Is that not a constitutional crisis? Maliwanag. Pero if we have to shift to parliamentary system government, automatic, itong mga problema nito, ma-resolve agad. We should not mention unitary or federal, but first we have to shift to parliamentary. Then kung kinakailangan, pag-usapan yan, whether we like it unitary or we like federal. Saka na natin pag-usapan yan. But the important is, if we could shift to the 1899 Constitution, automatically, we could adopt parliamentary system government and we could eliminate corruption. If we cannot stop.
We are down to 8 participants. Meron pa ho tayong oras para mag-comment po kayo kung anong gusto nyong i-comment habang inintay natin yung mga ibang kasama natin. Sige po.
Myrna Siguiente is Antique Cebu. She was on earlier. She had already talked. And everybody already, I think, has commented, no? Giancarlo was starting to ask a question. So maybe Giancarlo should be able to continue with his question, but be more specific.
Yung sa ano po, specify na po yung sa kagagawan din ng Department of Health kasi dito eh. Ano pong pwedeng gawin dito ng 1899?
Carlo, wala tayong kakayanang may gawin kasi we are not in power. We are a movement. Ang kaya lang natin gawin ay ipaalam sa mga kapwa natin Pilipino itong ating mensahe. Nabulok ang ating sistema at ang kabulokang yan ay pwede lang maayos kung tayo ay lumipat sa isang parliamentary system. That is what we can do. We are not people in power who can decree and tell people to change things immediately. We are in the process of gaining the sympathy of our people so that people who are thinking like us will be empowered by them and then they can do something about it. Tayo mismo, ang ating kayang gawin lang is to communicate our message. That is why we have to sharpen our tools of communication. We have to have exercises like what Sonny Domingo is hosting or planning to organize in November 30 in Antipolo, which will be a joint mortar meeting and also a meeting that will be also broadcast through the web like this. So may meeting na mga tao na nagbi-meeting at the same time nakakonect rin tayo sa web and to connect to all our other streamed websites and Facebook pages and Facebook groups. Yan ang kaya natin gawin, Carlo. We have no ability. We are not in power. We are not even a full organization yet. We are evolving towards that. We are a movement that is supporting a shift to parliament. That is where we are right now. We are a conglomeration, a network of individuals, but we are even not yet an organization. That is what we are. So that's what we can do. Communicate, explain to the people why we need to shift to the parliament with a question hour that can stop systemic corruption. That is what we can do.
Okay, any more questions from the participants? We are
One
now
more,
on.
one more.
Yes, okay.
Christy has a
Yes.
question.
Sir, one more.
Yes, Christy, go ahead.
Question. Oo. In relation to itong mga COVID pandemic, yung mga nangyayari ngayon, no, global, how will a parliamentary form of government be able to help when this kind of situation comes up again? Because right now the whole world is crippled, and you know, the form of government that you are espousing, the parliamentary form of government, how would it be able to help us out? Kasi ngayon parang, I don't know if you've been reading, but I've been reading so much about what's going on in the elections in the US. There's the cabal behind everything. So how can the parliamentary form of government be able to be of help when this will come up again? This kind of problem will come up again.
Let me answer that by saying that the governments of Europe that dealt with the pandemic are also parliaments. The system of government in the States is a presidential federal system. Different forms of government have dealt with this pandemic. They have, and that is a question of effective implementation. It is not a question of form of governance. Meaning to say, it is independent of the form of governance.
Okay.
The reason, the relevance of this issue is what Engineer Lorque mentioned earlier. Kasi sa process ng pag-respond, kailangan ng maraming pera, di ba? Kaya namimili ng mga gamit para dyan. Nagkaroon ng investigasyon dito ngayon sa Senado dahil nga sa mga kalokohan nangyari. Ang tawag ko dyan, nagkaroon tayo ng mga mas matitindi pa sa drug lord at sa waiting lord. Ang tawag ko dyan, mga COVID lords.
COVID lords, tama.
Malalagkit ang kamay na pagdaan ng pera sa kanila, ganon. Yung mga ganong klaseng corruption, na corrupt na mga tao, they will be present in any form of government, whether it is a parliament or whether it is a presidential system. Because ganun talaga ang human nature. Once you give them an opportunity to do bad things and to serve their selfish interest, they will do it kung walang checks. Ang kaibahan is that in a parliamentary system, sabi nga nabanggit din ni Engineer Lorque, we have a weekly question hour check. ikaw ang Prime Minister, ikaw in charge ng paggawa ng response mo sa COVID. Tatanungin ka ng kapwa mo member of parliament. At pag hindi ka nakasagot ng tama, ibabagsak ang gobyerno, papalitan ka. Hindi kailangan maghintay ng 6 years para palitan ka. Kung makinig kayo, Miss Christie, sa mga hearings na nasa internet ng UK Parliament at saka noong New Zealand Parliament, noong British Parliament, ng also Australian Parliament.
Yes.
Pagkinig ka sa kanila dyan, ang topic na sinasagot ni Boris Johnson weekly doon nung kasagsagan ng COVID ay tungkol sa COVID. Tinatanong siya ng mga members, ano bang ginagawa mo sa COVID? Ano na ang pera dito? Bakit yung region namin wala? Ang responsiveness na yung pagpantay sa kalokohang mangyayari ay mas matindi sa isang parliamentary system. Kaya hindi katulad ngayon, pagkakaroon ng investigasyon, nakawala na yung mga baka sa turil, nakuha na ng mga cattle rustler. Pero sa isang sistema ng parliament, bago pa buksan ng turil, nabisto na sila. Natanggal na yung mga magnanakaw, natanggal na yung mga cattle rustler. Yan ang kaibahan, Mr. Christie.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, paki-unmute yung mga hindi pa nagsasalita, no? Mag-unmute lang pag nagsalita na. Okay, in addition, Ms. Ofer, kadamihan ng gobyerno ng mundo ngayon, lalo na yung United Kingdom, parliament lahat yung mga yan. Bakit sila nauna pa na mag-solve ng problema? Parliamentary sila. So, I think it's not a matter of system, it's a matter of leadership.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello, pwedeng paki-unmute yung hindi nagsasalita. Okay, any other comments, please?
In summation na siguro nito, no?
Okay,
Itong
go ahead.
nagagawa ng parliament dito is mako-question talaga itong mga kalokohan na ito at yun ang nakikitang dahilan. At yung sa Comelec naman, dito rin malalaman kung anong dawain meron ang mga loko-lokong ito sa Comelec. Yun po ang isang summation dyan.
Ang proposal ko sa Comelec ay dapat hindi magkaroon ng sinasabing constitutional immunity sila or constitutional independent. Wala namang independent constitutional body ng Comelec dito sa United States. Sa United States, wala naman. They are able to have a proper election kasi lalo na magiging answerable sila. Hindi katulad ngayon, hindi mo pwedeng kasuhan itong mga Comelec commissioners na ito, kailangan mong i-impeach pa. At paano silang ma-impeach? Takot pa kanila mga congressman kasi bago sila ma-impeach, matagal na usapan sa Kongreso, aabutin na sila ng next election cycle. Takot sila na banatan sila ng mga Comelec commissioners. Kaya nagiging untouchable itong mga Comelec commissioners na ito. Kung hindi sila constitutionally independent, mayayari sila pag hindi nila ginawa ng tama ang kanilang tao. Kaya we should do away with the constitutional independence of Comelec.
Meron ba tayong go ahead, Prof.
Kaya ginawa yung constitutional independence ng Comelec daw para wag pakialaman ng politiko. Ang nangyari diyan, nagkaroon ng unintended effect. Nagkaroon ng sindikato sa loob ng Comelec, hindi na pwedeng pakialaman ng kahit sino. Kasi constitutional independent nga sila. Tuwing sila tatanungin, sabihin nila, we are constitutional independent, hindi namin kayo kailangan sagutin. Yan ang ginawa nila, di ba? Si Soto, dahil sa nainis siya, dahil na bakit siya nalamangan ng gusto ng 2016 elections ni Drilon. Sabi ni Soto, Putris, Drilon na ito, mas popular ako sa kanya. Bakit number 1 siya? Ako number 4 lang. Kaya gawa siya ng investigasyon sa Senado pag naging na siya, Senate President na. Wala rin nangyari doon. Kasi takot din ang mga senador, aabutin sila ng re-election nila, hindi na magtatanong. Ngayon, ang pinaka mabilis yung manufacture ng Comelec ng mga congressman ay yung mga party list. Pagbayad ka lang ng 35 million hanggang 50 million, ayos ka na. Party list congressman ka na. So, bayad ka pa ulit ng isang 35 million, may pangalawang seat ka pa, o 85 million na yon. Anyway, sabi nila, kayo mga congressman, meron naman kayong 70 million pork barrel every year. 2 taon lang, bawi ka na. Sa 3 taon naman ang term mo eh. So, ganansya mo na yung buong last pork barrel mo. Kaya, yun ang kanilang taripa. Kung gusto mong maging party list, bayad ka sa kanila. Alam na alam yan ni Engineer Lorque kasi siningil siya ng ganyan eh. Hindi siya nakapagbayad, hindi siya congressman. Yan ang nangyari. So that is how we are with our elections. Kaya dapat talagang baguhin na itong sistemang ito. The unintended effect of a regulatory capture of the Comelec by existing syndicates, wherein we can't do anything about it, is now something that is creating all of this malfeasance and great corruption, central corruption that we are experiencing in the country right now. Kailangan abolish the Comelec, abolish its constitutional independence.
Okay, ito, natalo ito dahil walang 35 million.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are now 9 o'clock. I think we are going into our presentation hour. 8 o'clock was introduction, 8 to 9 was introduction, some questions, some open forum, some analysis which is being done carefully by Prof. Hill, which we appreciate very much. Sana hindi ka mawawalan ng tubig dyan sa harap mo para hindi ka matuyuan ng lalamunan. Anyone who would like to volunteer to make a presentation just so we can go on with the format of our 4-hour program every Saturday morning. Doon sa November 30 siguro baka wala na rin tayong presentation hour because it will be concentrated on a discussion on a coalition of the common. But for now, sure, we'll allow a presentation, maybe 5 to 30 minutes. Profile, any suggestion? Engineer, any suggestion?
Yes, the most interesting topic for presentation, which I could do, unless Engineer Lorque would like to do it, is to share with us all the most recent political gossip that he knows about. So, Mr. Lorque, will you be able to share us what have you been hearing from your friends there about the different candidacies for president by these people? That can be a presentation in itself. Would you be able to share anything that you have with us?
Okay, gossip hour. Engineer Lorque, start with the gossip hour now, Engineer Lorque.
Wala kang mute. Mute ka. Unmute ka muna.
What was the question, Sonny?
Ano yung mga chismis na alam mo sa mga kandidatura ng mga presidente?
Gossip hour na tayo ngayon, gossip hour. Bakit ba pinapatanggal si Bongbong dahil lang sa nalimutan niya mag-file ng income tax?
Alam mo yung mga yan, ng mga issue na yan, mga issue ng mga gunggong yan. Alam mo kung bakit? Ang dami ng problema ng bayan ay bakit na itanggalin mo? Pahayaan mo kung that is the will of the people, then to be it. Huwag nyo iisipin yan. Para sa akin, we are passing this world once and pass no more. So let's go direct to the solution, not to the problem. Adding another problem, titik niya klase ka sistema to. 500 years na ginaulit-ulit natin ito. Why not we change the system? Dami ng mga ninuno natin na nawala sa mundo. Hindi nila na paganda ang ating bayan. So ang aking suggestion ay kahit doon sa Iloilo, nasabi ko doon sa kanila, dahil sabi nila, we are supporting Lini doon sa bayan namin dahil nakatulong doon sa bayan. Ang tanong, ilang bayan ba dyan sa Iloilo na tulungan niya? Isa lang. So I respect kung ganyan. So ibig ko sabihin, huwag mo na i-publish sa i-publicize yan. Ikaw na lang, mag-isip na lang kung sino ang iyong botohin. Pero ibig ko sabihin, kung ano ang kapakanan ng buong bayan, hindi yung isang bayan lang. Buong bayan.
Okay.
So doon sa nabanggit kanina ni Professor Hill, tungkol doon sa Comelec na yan, na may constitutional commission, sa parliamentary system, it's either we should adopt a constitution, written constitution, or none. Dahil sa England, wala naman silang constitution. Sa France, meron. So, saan dyan ang mga bagay-bagay na pabor sa atin? Kasi napakaraming issue na marami ang nagkwento tungkol sa federalismo pero hindi alam kung ano. Kaya nga sabi ko 12 ang federal system government sa buong mundo. Nasaan niya sa 12 na yan ang gusto mo? Hindi niya masagot. So dapat kung ano ang kakayanan natin dito sa ating bansa, ayan na klase ka federal ang ipairal natin kung federal gusto natin. Kung unitary man, huwag naman sana yung unitary na puro korupsyon. Pero dahil sa parliament, madali mahuli dahil weekly may question hour. So doon sa natanong kanina tungkol sa independent, pagka-independent ng Comelec, kung may konstitusyon. Kung wala, wala na rin Comelec. So yan
Yeah.
ang akin kung ano ang madagdag natin.
Well, more gossip about that. I think we can classify the candidacies into two sort of dimensions, two matrix. Yung mga kandidato na mga galit kay Marcos and attack him on an ad hominem basis, at saka yung mga, yun ang isang side, mga anti-Marcos na mga kandidato. Sa ganyang klase, makikita ko na parang yung kandidato lang na hindi umatake kay Marcos ay si Isko Moreno. In fact, sinabi niya na believe nga siya kay President Marcos, isa sa mga idol niya. Kaya nakikita mo si Isko Moreno hindi umatake kay Bongbong Marcos. Pero mga iba, sino mga iba? Si Lenny, si Pacquiao, at si Lacson hindi rin umatake kay Marcos. Si Lacson at saka si Isko Moreno. So, yung mga rabid na umatake kay Marcos ay si Pacquiao ngayon, si Lenny, at well, ang iba pang mga sa dalawang presidential yan ang umatake kay Marcos. Ngayon, based naman sa pag-classify sa kanila as either for parliament o hindi, ang klaradong for parliament lang ay si Bongbong Marcos. Si Pacquiao, although yung nagsabi ng isang beses na siya ay for parliament, sa kanyang mga mensahe sa tao ay panay lang ang sabi niya, ako galing sa mahirap, kaya asikasuhin ko kayo dahil kaya kong isipin ang kapakanan ng mahirap dahil galing ako doon. Ngayon, may isa pang way to classify the candidate. Yung mga mahilig lang sa atake, personal ad hominem, yung sinasabi kong holier than thou candidates, at saka yung mga kandidato na positive ang kampanya, yung kanilang sinasabi, yung kanilang plataforma, yung anong gagawin nila para sa bayan. Ngayon, yung mga umatake ng gusto na ang kanilang kandidatura daw ay based on attacking another candidacy ay yung kay Lenny. Sinabi niya na siya ay kakandidato para lang hindi matuloy na maging presidente ulit si Marcos. Yun namang si Pacquiao, pinapa-apologize si Marcos. Ad hominem din yun. Yung mga ad hominem attack, they should concentrate instead on their platforms of government. Lacson has a very clear platform. He just talks about it. It's unfortunate that he is not so popular. He is not performing well in the polls. And the other candidates who are also talking about platforms are the only one that I can see very clearly articulating a platform is Bongbong Marcos. The others do not have it. And the other guy with an articulated platform that is also very clear is Calio de Guzman. Although it is a leftist platform, it is a very clear platform. Although meron din silang kasali doon na atake na personal kasi pinapa-apologize din nila si Marcos, inatake nila yung mga history ni Marcos tungkol sa martial law na wala namang kinalaman si Bongbong. Yun lang ang problema kay Calyodi. Pero as a platform of government, very clear ang sinasabi nila. Leftist nga lang. You may not agree with their platform, but they have a clear platform. Yung mga ibang mga kandidato, puros ad hominem attack. Parang holier than thou candidacy. Sinasabi nila, mas mabait akong driver. Kaya kaya kong i-drive ng maigi kahit na bulok ang ating kotse ng presidential system. Ang ating bulok na presidential system ay inihambing ko sa kotse na hindi mo maibirek yung steering wheel kasi nakatutok lang sa vested interest ng mga gustong magpayaman sa gobyerno. At wala ring anti-corruption brake kasi wala silang question hour na katulad ng parliament. Kahit na i-brake mo ng i-brake, hindi umubra. Naglalak ang brakes, hindi makahinto ng tamang sasakyan. Kaya ang nangyayari, crash palagi. Marami tayong scandal corruption crashes because of that. And now, ang sinasabi ng ibang kandidato, oy, ako mas mabait. Holier than daw ako sa iba, yung iba mas masama. Kaya akong piliin nyo kasi mabait akong driver. Anong magagawa mo bilang mabait na driver? Sira ang bulok ang kotse. Dapat na ang kailangan natin ay isang mekaniko na marunong ayusin itong kotseng ito. Ipalitan ang kotse o gumawa ng paraan na mabago ang presidential system into another kind of governance system. So those are the three classifications of these candidacies. Classify them according to their ad hominem attacks on Marcos, classify them according to their platform, clarity of their platform, and classify them as to whether they are supporting parliamentary shift or not. Yun ang aking suggestion sa mga kasamahan natin dito sa ating plenary sessions every Saturday, na yun ang magiging batayan nila ng pagpili nila ng kandidatong susuportahan nila. I can entertain questions if it's not as clear enough to everybody what I talked about in classifying this candidacy.
Yeah, any questions, please? We still have 30 minutes anyway.
Okay, so anybody who has an idea, and so ngayon ang isa pang comment ko, Kasani, tayo ngayon ay we are ang kamalian ng ating sistema, kahit halimbawa hindi tayo lumipat sa parliamentary system, yung ating presidential system ay hinahaluan ng multi-party system, at saka wala tayong sinasabing run-off. Sa ibang mga bansa na may presidential system, may run-off sila. Kung sino ang nangunguna at pangalawa sa preliminary na unang sultada ng eleksyon, yun ay mag-i-election ulit at mamimili ang tao kung sino talaga ang gusto nila sa dalawa. Kaya nagkakaroon sila palagi ng majority president. Tayo, wala tayong ganun. Kaya kahit na hindi tayo lumipat, halimbawa, ang hinihintay ko sa mga kandidatong ito, na magsabi ng ganun. Ni yung mga kandidatong yan na ayaw magpunta ng parliament, hindi rin nag-uusap tungkol sa runoff. May narinig na ba kayo among these presidential candidates talking about the runoff? Wala. They're not talking about the runoff. Kasi gustong-gusto ng mga oligarko na minority president kasi konti lang ang mga bibilhin nilang boto. Makakamura sila. Yan ang kanilang sistema. They can easily manipulate our whole country with a minority control of the population. Gusto yan ng mga oligarko na mga tuta itong mga presidential candidates na ito. Kaya gusto ko marinig sa mga yan. If they are not for parliament, are they for a presidential runoff system? Nobody is talking about it. Bakit wala? Kasi ganun, kasama sila sa mga oligarko na gusto nila, konti lang ang kanilang kailangan bilhin boto. Kahit na 23% lang o 24% pareho ng kay presidential President Ramos noon, kaya na nilang maging presidente ng Pilipinas. So this is one thing that we should be aware of. This is one thing that we should communicate to the people. So if they are not for a parliamentary shift, at least are they for a presidential runoff system? Wala akong narinig na ganyan sa kanila. Di katangahan ang ginagawa nila sa atin, niloloko nila tayo.
Prof. Phil, hindi kaya dahil may problema rin tayo sa mga politiko natin, they hold on to their political districts, and siyempre ang amo nila dyan ay yung mga nag-finance sa kanila. So baka kailangan ng batas talaga na mag-round off. Pero kung itong mga congressmen natin that's representing political districts doesn't like the idea, parang walang pupuntahan ng bansa natin dahil sa political districts and presidential system. Any comment, please?
I don't think that is a hindrance because in the congressional candidates, itong senador, tuta na mga oligarko yan. Kasi hindi pwedeng manalo kang senador kung wala kang maraming kontribusyon sa mga oligarko. Kasi napakalaki ng gagastusin mo para maging senador ka. Kaya kailangan mo talaga lumuhod sa mga oligarko para maging senador ka. Kaya nakita nga natin doon sa ABS-CBN issue kung gaano kahawak ng mga oligarko ang Senado. Walang pumayak sa Senado laban sa ABS-CBN. Kahit na yung mga ayaw na ma-renew ang ABS-CBN, tumatahimik lang pero hindi umatake. Ang nakita nyo lang umatake sa ABS-CBN ay yung mga nasa Kongreso, nasa lower house. Kasi maliit lang ang constituency nila eh. Kaya nilang manalo on the basis of their competence and the popularity in the small district that they are running. But they will need oligarchic support if they are running for senator. Kaya ang isa ring proposal nitong ating grupo, which I am personally proposing, once we shift to parliament, we don't want a bicameral system of parliament. We only want a unicameral system. Isang parlamento lang. Kasi ang nangyayari, katulad ng nangyayari ngayon, nagkaroon ng investigasyon sa Senado, di ba? Dinabanatan yung mga COVID lords. Ang nangyari, nagpatawag din si Duterte ng congressional investigation sa lower house para ma-counteract yung pan sa Senado. Kalokohan yan. Let us just have a unicameral system in a parliamentary system. Isang investigasyon lang, isang house lang. Elected naman ng mga taong magkupan para walang ganung klaseng bicameral insanity na sinasabi ko. Kalokohan yan. And that is why I would advocate a unicameral parliamentary system. But that is my own advocacy. Ang general advocacy ng grupo natin is just parliament. Whether it is bicameral or unicameral, we are for a parliamentary shift.
Any more comment?
I think we should look at these other community of Zooms in the web right now. Kasi marami ng mga may Zoom meeting because this will be equivalent to town hall processes. Kasi mangyayari sa pagdating ng kampanyahan, hindi masyadong iikot ang mga kandidato, iikot lang sa mga different Zoom communities. Kaya dapat malaman natin yan at maaaring makaugnayan natin ang mga moderators at saka coordinators niyan para sa kanilang mga Zoom meeting, pag-ikot ng mga kandidato ay matanong nila ng mga tanong na mahihirap sagutin. Hindi yung parang promotional meeting lang para sa kanila. Kunyari, pampapogi yung mga tanong nila. Kasi maaaring may ibang mga Zoom meeting dyan, mga nagtatanong-tanong sa kandidato, para pampaganda, pampalakas ng kandidatura ng kandidato ngayon. Parang velvet gloves ang pagpuna. Yun din ang ating dapat gawin. We have to contact also this mainstream journalist kasi although maraming corruption sa ating mainstream media, meron pa rin diyang mga honest na mga journeyman journalist. No? Yun ang dapat nating makontak. Kaya dapat nating sabi sa kanila ang mga gusto nating katanungan. Kasi nakikita ko mga tinatanong nila sa mga interview, mga babait na tanong eh. Yung hindi tanong na mamimilipit yung kandidato. Dapat yung tanong nila, yung papilipit. Ang tinatanong nila ng pampapilipit lang na tanong, si Bongbong Marcos lang eh. Pero kaya pa rin sagutin ni Bongbong yung kahit ang pinipilit nilang suplahin o kaya patirin yung kandidatong si Bongbong. He is able to handle their questions properly. Kaya sa ngayon, that explains why during this gossip hour of ours, we can only gossip about the very high marks of Bongbong Marcos in the poll surveys. Ngayon, going into poll surveys, itong mga poll surveys na iba dyan, ay minsan yan, may mga agenda yang iba kasi katulad ng Publicos, that is not a scientific survey. The Publicos survey where Marcos is leading at 49%, that is not scientific. It was based on a panel, market panel of 20,000 voters. Doon sila kumuha ng kanilang mga tinanong at nagkaroon sila ng 1,500 sample, yun ang nagsabi na 49% doon ang may gusto kay Marcos. Pero ano talaga ang agenda ng Publicos? Ang agenda ng Publicos, kampi yun sa kay Leni Robredo at kampi kay Bongo. Kasi ang Publicos ay isang kumpanya na nagsusulisit ng mga campaign commission sa mga different candidates. They are not what you call an honest broker of surveys. Ang agenda nila ay magkaroon sila ng kliyente na papanurin na sa eleksyon. Dito sa ginawa nilang Marcos na top na 49%. Katakataka yun. Ang ibang mga survey, si Marcos nga ang top, pero nandun lang sa 23 or 24 or 25% ang score ni Marcos. Dito sa survey ng Publicos, 49%. Ang binibidan nila doon ay sinasabi nila na number 2 na. Si Leni Robredo nasa 23%, si Marcos ay nasa 49%. Pero ang katotohanan nun, sa survey na iba, nakapang-4 lang si Leni. So inangat nila yun, they manipulated it na naging number 2 si Leni doon. Pangalawa, si Bongo, lamang pa rin si Tito Soto kay Bongo. Ginawa nilang number 1 sa kanilang survey. Yan ang mga agenda nila na kailangan, kung tayo magbabasa ng mga survey, kailangan nating aralin yan. Kailangan random ang sample. Kailangan galing sa isang population na representing the entire country, the entire universe or the entire group of voters. yung kanilang market research panel, hindi yung representative of the voters of the Philippines. Kaya they manipulated it. Ang isa pang masamang agenda nito ay baka gawin nila later on sa kanilang mga subsequent survey. Oh, dati 49% si Marcos, ngayon bumaba na, 33% na lang. Tapos next survey na, hindi na, bumaba na, hindi lang 33%, nasa 20% na lang. To create a downtrend for Marcos. That is a very foolish agenda that they may be pursuing. Because they are doing an unscientific survey. So ito namang ating mga ito namang ating, I think, binabayaran sila kasi kaya nila pinapublish yan. Our journalists have to be educated about the science behind surveys. Kailangan maintindihan nila yan. I am a trained social scientist. I know statistical sampling. I know surveys. I run my own survey ng Bayan firm, which do a real survey based on random sampling of the entire population of the country using about a 200 million database of cell phones. So I know what I'm talking about when I say that these surveys are not scientific surveys. Kalokohan ang ginagawa nila.
More comments from the others, please. You are free to make a comment. Anyway,
Ito ko lang dito is, no, Mr. Speaker, recognize po.
Okay, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay. Ang comment ko lang dito is, yung problema din natin sa kahirapan yun, masakit eh. At maraming Pilipino nawalan ng trabaho, kaya tama itong ginagawa nito. At ipagpatuloy lang po ito para may tama na itong pagkakamali ito. Yun po muna.
Anong itutuloy natin yung ating usapan?
Oh,
you have to unmute. Okay. You have to unmute, Mr. Lorque. You're talking without unmuting yourself.
Okay,
Yeah.
may pinadala si LB Tanggol na 40 million COVID shots remain unused in the Philippines. So, itong mga bagay-bagay na ito, although out of the topic ito ngayon, pero kung parliamentary tayo, sana maimbestigahan na natin ngayon ng DOH. Bakit hindi nila ngayon napamigayan? Pero dahil presidential tayo, ay wala tayong magawa. Hanggang na nasayang lang itong mga pira na pamilya niya. So kaya sa mga nakikinig, dapat mag-isip-isip kayo. We are not looking into the constitutional crisis, but we want to eliminate corruption in the Philippines. Kaya ang parliamentary system government ang pinupos natin.
Yeah. Meron tayong bagong pasok. Carlos, go. I think he
Carlos.
just came in.
Report.
Oh, no, he disappeared again. Anyway, he's here. So go, Carlos. Okay, can you tell us what attracted you to our little plenary Zoom session? Go ahead, Carlos. Yes, good morning. We have a session here. Our presiding chair is Sonny Domingo. You can, I think, we are welcoming people who will talk, introduce ourselves.
Yes, you are welcome. Please unmute and please put on your video.
Go ahead.
Carlos, marinig mo kami.
Mukhang may problema siya sa kanyang audio. Minsan na-unmute. Anyway, welcome. And we're talking about a shift to parliament. This is advocacy of the group. And we're talking about using the 1899 Constitution as a basis for new constitutional governance of the Philippines. And that is the brief explanation of our group here. So we have talked about the elections, Mr. Speaker. What else would you like us to discuss during this remaining time that we have?
Oh,
Hindi dumidiretso na tayo, di ba? Hirapan.
yeah. Anyone else who would like to make a comment before we proceed? We have about 10 minutes more to, about 40 minutes more to 10 o'clock. Or on your advice, Prof. Hill, you think we should proceed with the proper coalition of the commons proper already? Because I prepared a little introduction here. To
Yes,
get it
I
going.
could. We could give the chair to Engineer Lorque so that he chairs while you deliver your presentation.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Pakishare na lang po ito, whoever is recording this, to everyone that has participated. So I prepared this statement for the first session of the Shadow Parliament on Coalition of the Commons. Mga kababayan sa Shadow Parliament, we are gathered today as a coalition of the commons to try to see the light of day. Banaag man lang gaya ng sabi ni Senator Dina, champion of the urban poor. By way of changing our system of government to a parliamentary system, either through democratic means or a revolutionary means. Every one of us knows that we are still trying to do this through a democratic means by electing President Duterte with a landslide who promised us change and a shift to federalism and possibly a parliamentary system, with a question hour for a prime minister to report direct to the people through the parliament of any action that he has taken to provide good governance or save the republic in times of war, as many other prime ministers of great nations have done to save their country from perdition. Today, we again take the challenge of talking about how we can have a common ground to achieve our goal as a group to seek a parliamentary form of government. I urge everyone today that we should not be talking of personalities or even the traits of a good leader, as we ourselves have taken upon ourselves to be the leaders of sectors that we now represent in the shadow parliament. Today, we should be talking of having a common ground and avoiding parochial concerns. As a nation of free people, colonized many times over to convert our people to a religion that is very strange to them, of having three gods in one God, and a free enterprise system where anyone can be wealthy if he or she has the capital, which is now called capitalism. But then today, as we avoid comparing personalities, we are now being overwhelmed by the recent events of a popular candidate being eased out of a democratic exercise through technicalities. This is important to us at this point because this candidate's party professes to carry out the goal of federal government with a parliamentary system, which is also our primordial goal for getting together in this fora today. Now, if they fail to put him out technically, and will resort to his physical disappearance, this may now lead us to civil war, because the forces supporting this person will no longer take this affront on their candidate sitting down, as they say they've done in the last 3 decades. This eventuality is a reality today, and so the question is, what must we do as a group, no matter how few we are, to have a common ground to now emerge as a force to reckon with, 5 presidentials acting as one, if this democratic approach to our goal fails? And so today we propose that the minor presidential candidates stay with us to have a common ground to capture the events to favor us in achieving our objective of changing our system of government. If the most popular candidate will be taken out of the equation, we must have a common ground of what to do. Also, to have the power to reckon with the remaining pretenders to the throne of righteous, doing what is right, just, and fair governance under a parliamentary system. We should be clear in our discussions today on what to do as soon as the possibility of the following events happens. Number one, the popular candidate who is more attuned to leading us to our goal to change the system will be eliminated by whatever means, before or after winning the election. Number two, There will be an election choosing the leader in a Spartmatic manner of Comelec using its 10 million padded votes. Number 3, there will be a failed election because of the southern forces of our Muslim brothers will have prevailed in a move to force the sitting president to first declare that we are now a federal government electing a federal president. Number 4, that the remaining presidential candidate, after eliminating the most popular candidates, are voted upon through the intervention of a foreign government, making us a banana republic. And so, my countrymen, the question is now, the more important question is, what if Digong Diggs dies in office? Are we ready for such eventuality? This was the question of Prof. Hill. Are we ready for such eventuality? Shall we allow a status quo to kingdom come of the elite politicians and oligarchs lording over a tropical paradise like ours? And so, my countrymen, the question is, where do we begin? And when do we begin? The answer is yours. Salamat po sa lahat.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, let's acknowledge the presence of Attorney Serapio.
Attorney Serapio, sir. Good morning, Attorney Serapio. So,
Good morning.
just finished this message. So, Professor Hill, any comment for that?
Yes, the question that was quoted by Kasani Domingo, Mr. Speaker, was my question, because I call the candidacy of Leni Robredo as a vulture candidacy. The only chance that it can prosper is if Digong dies in office before May 2022, because then constitutionally, even if she cheated her way to office, this is still the constitutionally proclaimed vice president. She will take over the presidency. And with incumbency, many things can happen already. And therefore, she will be running for office like the candidacy of Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo against Fernando Po Jr. and Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo won against Fernando Po. So we can see a situation wherein Digong dies in office, maybe before this year ends, because he has the characteristics of being vulnerable to this pandemic right now, and other things as well, because he is an older person. If that happens, then Ms. Leni Robredo takes over as president. And then the machinations of foreign intervention, like the Rappler Group and whoever else would like her to win the presidency, will manipulate the Comelec Smartmatic syndicates with coercion as well as monetary inducements to cheat for her, the same way that she cheated Bongbong Marcos in the past. So we will have a repeat of what happened in 2004, wherein a popular candidate was trumped by cheating in the Hello Garcia scandal. You know, the most famous phrases in 2004. Hello Garcia, and I'm sorry, because they cheated Fernando Po. So that is why I call the candidacy of Leni Robredo a vulture candidacy. In fact, she was not so already, what do you call this, very enthused to run. She was just trying to put together a unity candidate, but then people like this Carpio and these other people around her who knows that this possibility may happen, really forced her to run as for president, even if she is performing very low in the polls, because of this vulture opportunity that can happen anytime. So I would like to hear comments of the people here on that particular possibility. Attorney Serapio, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, Attorney Serapio, you are recognized.
Could you hold on? Kasi I'm mobile right now. I'm on my way to the south. So my signal is not stable. Anyway, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just caught the last part of the presentation of
Kasani.
Sonny Domingo. But in the light of that, or of the tenor of what he presented, I think I have a good perspective of what he is trying to get across to us. No? Well, these are different scenarios that can happen, and it is only fit and proper, I think, for us to prepare in the event that any of these scenarios should come to reality, and should they any of it materialize. Truth to tell, the Katipunan ng Kabalayang Payumanggi has factored perhaps not all the scenarios, but a good number of the scenarios that Kasani has presented. And regardless of which one materializes, it is really time, I submit, for our people to be enlightened on the kind of clear and present danger that the nation is facing. And but I would rather that we do not base our response to the situation on the interest of any personality, but rather we should work within the framework of the status quo against change as the primary driver planning and response to any for us to say specifically, although I know Kasani purposely tried not try, but he purposely omitted mentioning any personality. The circumstances, however, would identify that personality very clearly. So what I'm saying is that we should focus on the basic premise, a status real change event that our people should really take seriously in addressing. So and how do you prepare for that? Where one step is what we're trying to do now: get all the minority national candidates to come together, agree on a common political reading, decide on a political direction, and strategize. And I would imagine that that is what will be the next steps after this discussion. That is all, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much.
Yeah.
Speaker, Mr.
yes.
Speaker,
Yes.
yeah. May I comment on the comment of Charlie?
Go ahead.
I appreciate very much his incisive analysis of what I just made, and I'm happy that he's the one leading now the discussion on what the coalition of the commons should be, coming up with a common platform among the 5 principles, and then doing something about it, coming up with a strategy to promote the system that we would like, the system change that we would like, not necessarily to promote the president that any one of us may like. Okay, and then thirdly, that the question after all is what will happen to us after this? Yeah, thank you very much, Charlie, for that.
Madagdag ko lang Kasani dahil ikaw na atasan din sa coalition of the common. may nilabas ang Comelec na kung maaari ay 95% ng kandidato ay ma-eliminate at ilan na lang, 5% na lang magtira. So kung maaari na magawaan ng paraan ito na this 95% candidates shall be eliminated. If that could be eliminated, or it could be eliminated, declared nuisance, kung pwede makonvince na they have to come up with the objective of the coalition of the common, na immediately we have to shift to parliamentary system government. Not necessarily the federal or unitary, but most importantly, parliamentary system government in order to eliminate corruption now and in the future. So if you can do it, we will highly appreciate that.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, go ahead, Professor.
while there's merit to what you're suggesting, because of our system of elections wherein you just self-nominate yourself and become a candidate, we may not be sure that these candidates are of any competence to be able to pursue the things we are advocating in yung sinasuportahan nating shift to parliament. Baka karamihan talaga dito mga kengkoy lamang. Kasi biglang nag-isip, gusto nila magpresidente, presidente sila. Kahit na ano. Basta mag-file ako. Kasi presidente ako eh. So that kind of thing is what we don't need. But among them, we can talk to them, interview them, or get to know them. And from them, when they talk sense, then perhaps we can cooperate with most of them, but maybe not all of them.
Okay, thank you. So ikaw, Sonny, ano nasabi mo doon?
Yeah, engineer, sabi ko na yung dapat kong sabihin. I would like to present to the group any suggestion. Where do we begin? And where do we begin? And when do we begin?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I think Carlo Iwa is raising his hand. Is it along the lines of what Kasani is asking? Suggestion on how to go about things?
Carlo, you are recognized.
Yang tanong ko lang dito is yung ano yung possible na mangyari sa suggestion ni Kasani Domingo para dito?
Yun ang tinatanong niya sa'yo. Anong gusto mong gawin? Anong suggestion
Ang
mo?
dapat na yatang gawin dito is sa akin, no, magkaroon din ng education template at na din natin na maayos itong ginagawa natin na ito. Yung po muna siguro.
Yun na nga ang minumungkahi ko na gagawin natin during this December break, ayusin natin yung ating plataforma. Pero ngayon, ang tinatanong ni Kasani, Mr. Speaker, if I may allow to continue, is that yung ano na ang gagawin nating step by step in terms of organizing yung meeting na gagawin niya sa November 30. Ano bang pag-uusapan natin doon? Una, ang pwede kong isagot doon, yung sinasabi ni Kasani na magkaroon ng common platform, hindi siguro pwedeng gawin yon. Kasi ang maliliit na mga kandidatura, mayroon lang sarili-sariling platform sila. Ang pwede lang sigurong gawin is that among these platforms, we don't tell them to adopt a common platform, but look at the platforms of these small candidacies and look at the intersecting set. Ano ba yung common doon sa lahat ng platforms? At saka magkaroon ng common statement supporting those common items that will appear in each of their listahan, no? Example, halimbawa, sumali sa atin sila Caliodi de Guzman, yung manggagawa, yung leftist group, no? Meron silang listahan ng kanilang gusto. Ngayon, doon sa mga listahan yon, may mga, siguro mayroon tayong mga, yung ibang grupo, mayroong i-adapt sila doon. Pero yung mga pro-Marcos group, hindi nila pwedeng i-adapt yung anti-Marcos line ng linya nila Caliodi. So, i-eliminate yun, yung mga common types lang. Okay, sa grupo nila Luis G. Ramos, yung Democratic Party of the Philippines. Kinukontak ko siya pero nagkasakit ata, na-stroke ata, kaya hindi nakakasabot sa akin. Yung grupo rin ng katipunan ng KDP, Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino, nila Butch Valdez. Inimbita ko sila dito ngayon, si Butch at saka si RJ Habiliana. Pero namatay ang anak ni Butch Valdez, yung isa niyang anak, kaya mukhang hindi pa siya talaga 100% na gumagalaw sa lahat ng activity tungkol sa politika. Yung grupo naman ni Norberto Gonzales, iniimbita ko rin, yung kanilang Partido Demokratiko Sosyalista ng Pilipinas. Sa mga polls, ngayon, nagre-register siya pero nasa pinakamababa. Mas mababa pa kay Calyodi. Halimbawa, 3% si Calyodi, siya ay lumarating lang sa 1.25% mention in terms of people aware that he is running for candidate, as candidate for president. But they have a network called the Partido Demokratiko Sosyalista ng Pilipinas, and he has occupied through that party also in coalition with the past administration. He has been the National Secretary of National Security as well as the Defense Secretary in interregnum when this guy, Gilbert Teodoro, ran for office for president. So he occupied high positions in government. The longest thing that he occupied, he had 3 positions under, he was, I think, for 9 years, he was in the government of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, if I understand it. So he has connections that may be useful in case he joins us, but he has not been active. The only person that has joined us several times already, I think he appeared once with us, right? But after that, yung nagpunta na lang dito 2 beses is Bernard Austria. They were supposed to have a meeting, him and Attorney Charlie Serapio, but I don't know what happened. Maybe Attorney Serapio can tell us about that.
Well, Attorney Serapio, can you hear us?
Maybe he is not unmuting. Maybe he cannot hear us. So let me proceed, Mr. Speaker, until Mr. Serapio unmutes. So, ang isang factor kaya hindi pa tayo makapag-desisyon talaga ng ating pag-coordinate kasi sinasabi mo nga, di ba, sabi ng Comelec, tatanggalin yung 95% ng mga kandidato. So most likely may mga tatamaan dito sa mga iniisip natin na mga taong gusto nating imbitahin. Halimbawa, yung KBL, may sarili silang kandidato. Kahit na si Marcos ay kandidato na, BBM, meron din kandidato nilagay yung KBL. Ewan ko kung sino. Pero yung ding DDP, Democratic Party of the Philippines, nagkaroon din sila ng kandidato, si Joey Montemayor. So, maaring tatanggalin sila ng mga Comelec, no? Maaring, sabi mo nga, out of the 97 presidential candidates, mga 9 lang o 10 o 6 o something like that ang matitira. Kasi gagawin ngang 95% ang elimination. Yun ding mga ibang mga kandidatong senador, ang iba dyan amenable or open sa pag-suporta ng parliament. In fact, ang isa kong minumungkay sa mga kasamahan natin, ay sumuporta lang ng senatorial candidate yung mga gustong magsuporta sa parliamentary shift na hindi natatakot na kahit na ma-abolish ang Senado na kinadaltuhan nila ay boboto pa rin sila for a parliamentary shift. Kasi itong mga senador, mayayabang ito eh. Ang tawag nila sa sarili nila, lalo na itong mga re-electionist kasi yan lang ang kilala ng mga tao. They are a republic. There are 24 republics and each republic is sovereign unto itself. Mayayabang, mataas ang ihi itong mga senador na to. They don't like a system na magiging member lang sila ng isang unicameral system. Kaya itong mga taong ito, ng mga dating mga senador, yan ang mga secretly, kahit hindi openly, ayaw nila na mag-parliament. Ayaw nila na mag-unicameral parliament kasi madedihado sila eh. Magiging mas hindi, parang mababawasan ng kanilang kasikatan. Kaya itong mga to, dapat ito ay ating silang i-confronta ngayong eleksyon. Sabihin nila kung sila ba ay for parliament o hindi para ma-identify natin ang mga senatorial candidates na for parliament or not. Yan ang isa natin dapat gawin sa ating coalition of the commons. Kasi ang gusto natin gawin, yung maliliit na mga kandidatura magkaroon ng isang boses sa mga bagay na pwede tayong magkasundo. Hindi pwede magkasundo lahat ng yan kasi iba't iba ang point of view ng yan. Kaya nga may sarili-sariling partido. Mayroong Katipunan ng Kamalayan Kayumanggi, mayroong Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino, may Democratic Party of the Philippines, mayroong lapian ng manggagawa, LNM, nila Calyodi, tsaka mayroong maraming mga malaliit na mga party list na mga kanya-kanyang shades of ideological positions towards the left or towards the center. So ang pwede lang natin gawin ay para tayong, at kaya kailangan talaga ng oras at kailangan talaga ng mahinahon na pagpupunyagi na makuusap ang mga ito. Kasi mayayabang din ang mga ito kahit na maliliit lang ang kanilang mga grupo minsan. Ang tingin nila ay porke na-publish sila sa newspaper, malaking na sila. Malaking grupo na sila. It's so difficult to coordinate these people, kaya we have to exert the effort put them together and make them realize that the only way that we can have a better voice and a clarity of messaging is we can coordinate and orchestrate our pronouncements. And that is a very tall order. So yan ang sinasabi ko, yan ang pinapahiwatig ko at pinapaabot ko kay Kasani na medyo yung kanyang, yung ating ginagawa na kanyang pinamumunuan ngayon kasi para siya ang task force leader nito, ay medyo hindi madaling gawin.
May I, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
May I, Mr. Speaker? Mr.
Yes.
Speaker, on the point of next steps, no? As I mentioned earlier, there is a need for us to have a common political reading more than just a platform or a program of action. The program of action proceeds from a common political reading. What Kasani presented is a political reading expressed in the forms of different scenarios. So if you are able to gather groups together who can agree that his reading of the situation is something that they also accept, then
No, nawala si Charlie.
Wala.
and that will be a basis for one force if you are bringing forces to the table. So the first step is to have an inventory of forces. To my mind, if Kasani's group, which is Kampi, farmer-based group, BP Lorque's group, which is a mariners-based group, and our group, which is
Wala si Charlie.
Paputol ka.
multi-sectoral in the sense that we have the rate of got more votes than de Guzman, no? We obtained more votes on the labor front than Cayo de Guzman. But we have also we have indigenous peoples groups, we have spiritual communities group, we have the Islamic groups. So if we have an inventory of forces, and we will be open, and we will not pretend or that we have more than what we have. In other words, we will not believe our own propaganda, but really be able to state to each other, in terms of warm bodies, what do you really have on the ground? So just those three, the mariners group, the farmers group, the labor, etc., other group, that is a force. We do not try to convince people to listen to us just by our ideas. We need to be able to show them that we may just have 0.01%, but it is the kind of percentage force that you have that is similar to a tail wagging the dog. You wag the dog with a percentage force and at the same time with the strength of your ideas. That's how you do it. And then at the same time, the strategy of your organization. So to my mind, the first step is an inventory of forces. And to have people who represent these forces sit down with Kasani in order to discuss the common political reading that they can agree on, And then, based on that reading, to discuss political direction. And third nga, to have a strategy. If this happens, this is what we will do. If this happens, this is what we'll do. Because in our case, since we have done this kind of scenario building also, we are precisely looking at our responses in the event that those scenarios happen. 1986 is instructive of a situation where you have a failed election in the sense that the results of the election were not accepted by one of the candidates. In 1998, what's that? That's the 1992. I should say, no. In 1992, there was also a similar situation where there is an allegation of cheating, but the institution accepted the results. Okay, they accepted the results. So all of our experiences in elections are very instructive on this. If we just discern it, it's so clear. The patterns are clear, which you have also mentioned, Prof. Hill, and which BP Lorque also has mentioned. From 1972, 1986, 1992, 1998, 2000, and 1998. What happened also in 2001? All of those are instructive of where the pattern is going. And except that there are now new factors and variables into the equation. But the pattern can be discernible. It will be discernible. So again, I submit we should have an inventory of forces on the ground. That's it. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Attorney Garfield.
Mr. Speaker, can I comment on that?
Okay, go ahead.
Ngayon, ang tama yung sinasabi ni Ka Charlie na sabi ni Ka Sonny, mayroon tayong listahan o parang senaryo na parang political reading. Ngayon, so pagkatapos ng political reading, mababasa natin ngayon, halimbawa sa political reading na ginawa ni Ka Sonny, si BBM ang leading candidate among the presidential candidates. So most likely, if those yung trends na yun ay mag-continue, it prevails onwards going towards May 2022, we may have a President Bongbong Marcos sitting in Malacanang on July 1, 2022. And his party is a party that was supporting federal parliamentary shift. They wanted to do it before the midterm election. That is what I understood from them. Now, so ngayon, ang iba namang senaryo na pinag-usapan na ano mangyayari kung may mga ibang reading na mamatay si Digong at manalo si Leni dahil nandaya, ano ngayon ang gagawin natin? Halimbawa naman mamatay si Bongbong, magkaroon ng assassination attempt sa kanya habang tumatakbong election, ano ngayon ang gagawin natin? Pero sabi nga din, kasabay sa tanong na kung anong gagawin natin, ano ba ang kaya natin gawin? Kaya nga sabi ni Ka Charlie, inventaryo ng persa. Gaano ba kalakas ang persa na magsasaka na sinasabi ni Ka Sonny? Gaano kalakas ang persa ng mga marino na sinasabi na kasama ni Engineer Lorque? Gaano kalakas yung mga sektor na hawak ngayon o nakasama ngayon ng Katipunan ng Kamayayang Kanyanggi? Gaano kalakas ang impluwensya ng Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino sa kanilang patuloy na pagtuturigsa sa mga oligarko at sa kanilang mga broadcast na ginagawa nila halos araw-araw sa kanilang mga broadcast media na nasa social media na wala naman, may mga mainstream din sila ng konti, yung parang mga radio broadcast nila. So that inventory of forces is can only be started if, for instance, we have enough attendees in the coming November 30 meeting of Ka Sonny, which he is planning to hold in Lutong Bicol, dyan sa Antipolo. Ngayon, so the first focus is to find out Ilan ba yung madadala nating mga leader na of consequence na makakarating doon? At saka kahit na konti lang, paano ba magkakaroon ng assurance na sa mga subsequent meetings ng ganong klaseng grupo na gagawin ni Kasani ay dadami yan? Anong mga paraang dapat gawin? So, ang mga magkakaroon muna ng mga key points. Nakikita kong key participants dito ay si Charlie, tapos si Kasani, tapos si Lorque, magsasaka, Marino, at saka yung mga sector groups nila Charlie. At nakatapos din yung maaaring grupo nila Norberto Gonzales, if they can get their act together. At kung pwede nating maimbitahan si Calyodi, ganun din yung grupo nila para mapag-usapan itong mga gusto natin gawin. So that is where I think we could start. Kung maimbitahan din natin yung DPP, yung Democratic Party of the Philippines nila Luis Ramos, kung meron din silang effort na gano'n, imbitahan din natin sila. So it's a process of doing the legwork, the secretarial work, and the only group that can do that is something that is a mortar organization that can really do it. Now, is that something that the group of Kasani can do, a secretariat effort of organizing that meeting? Is that something that the KKK, Katipunan Koyamangi, can do to organize that meeting? That is the necessary step that must be done and must be decided on now. Pwede nang pag-usapan anong kayang gawin ng KKK, anong kayang gawin ng grupo ni Kasani, ano rin ang kayang gawin ng mga grupo ni Lorque, ng mga Marino. So that is where the brass tacks has to be ironed out ngayon. Yun ang dapat sagutin ng bawat aktor. Ako, ang nagagawa ko lang is to be able to articulating, to be able to help in the formulation of common position papers of the group once they discuss it, or nuggets of analysis of what issues can be supported in a common manner by these groups. I have been reading the positions of Leo de Guzman. I've been reading the positions of the PDSP group in their own Roberto Gonzales presidential page. I've been looking at the page of the group of Katipunan Kayumangi. And so I have an idea of the commonalities of this, and I can write them up as a potential draft of common points that the coalition of the commons can support. A sort of a talking point agenda. Like when a group of multilateral summiteers meet, supposedly the undersecretaries of the different countries talk about common things that they can start discussing or discussion points. That is what I can do. That's what I can contribute. But the process of the secretariat process of contacting them, because it has to be done, it's not sufficient to contact them through social media. There should be constant follow-up of their meetings, their appointees, their secretaries. That I cannot do.
Well, thank you. And for the Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino, wherein it is part of my participation here. So what we are suggesting is for the common good, prior to the adoption of parliamentary system government, now we have to respect the Declaration of Principle and State Policy, the Bill of Rights, and the National Economy and Patrimony of the nation. So those are the three that shall be prioritized by the PDP. And I think regardless of what party might attend, provided these three particulars has to be respected. So we will highly appreciate that.
Mr.
Ang Bill of
Speaker.
Rights, ang Bill of Rights, pag na-violate ang Bill of Rights, whatever program the government has to do, the government has nothing, the people, I mean, the government people will not be happy.
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Very good, nice.
Mr. Speaker,
Go ahead.
I'm still at the point that earlier than what you're talking about, because you're not talking about the positions of KDP. And those positions are known. KDP has a webpage, we know what their positions are. Everybody's positions are known. It's already given. Nasa social media na yan eh. Pwede nang i-extract yan at makita. No? Pwede akong gumawa ng matrix, makikita ko ang commonalities niya lahat. Ang problema ngayon is the physical coordination of the meeting, which Kasani is planning to do. Yan ang problema, secretariat. We don't have a secretariat. We are not an organization. Itong ating meeting dito sa plenary sessions natin, we are not an organization. We are just a movement. We are a loose group of individuals meeting every Saturday. This group here, the plenary, we are not equipped with a secretariat to gather these groups. So I'm saying between the three of you, Asani, and Ka Charlie, how can you organize a secretariat to get all the other small groups into that meeting on November 30? That is the basic question that we're facing right now.
Mr. Speaker,
Yeah, go ahead.
with all due respect to Prof. Hill, I think PP Lorque and I should, as candidates, should more or less not be visible in the kind of planning that is going to be done by Kasani. That's the reason why, and I hope the person whom I have designated to represent our forces, no, in that meeting has already contacted Kasani. He's the Secretary General of the party. Because the role that candidates like Engineer Lorque and I are supposed to play in the current political exercise will be different from the role that Kasani and the others who are actually doing the organizational work and the planning for this kind of possible eventualities are different but connected. Different but connected. So, because otherwise, candidates like Engineer Lorque and I may be misunderstood if we start talking in the way that Kasani is presenting the political situation at the moment. Let me give you, for example, a different reading on why there is this attempt to technically eliminate a candidate. That can very well be just part of a negotiation process between two allied groups. No? So one group, if you compare it to a card game, it's a squeeze game. So if it is a game of bridge, it's a squeeze game. He's trying to be squeezed so that he can agree to certain concessions. Now, that is insofar as the internal dynamics of the politics between and among the different groups, which are either allied with each other or opposed to each other. Okay, so if that attempt comes from another group, no, which is not allied to him, then the purpose is different. The purpose is really elimination, because the objective is to not to allow any from that family to have the chance of coming back to power by occupying the highest office in the land. No? So when that group starts making their reading, they will see different scenarios. From the point of view of elections, a candidate like me will simply see it, hindi pa nagkakasundo, wala pang deal. No? Hindi pa magkasundo, mag-slide down ba ang isa o siyang mananatili, paano ba? Or kung hindi mag-slide down, yung how much, hindi pa nasasagot. So, as far as the internal dynamics is concerned, relative to election, the objective may be different. On the other hand, on a bigger frame scenario, that is what Kasani is saying, no? Bigger frame, who are really actually the manipulators of this, and what is really their objective. So I think Kasani's group, as you said, is a special task force, no? That's their job, to do all of the scenario building, and then to make sure that the forces that we have, both the popular forces, which are now engaged and involved in the election, and the institutional forces are prepared. They are prepared to respond regardless of what can happen. So in effect, what I'm saying is, Engineer Lorque and I should play a different role than the role that will be played by Kasani and the group that he is organizing. And therefore, Engineer Lorque can send a representative there. I have already designated one whom we will send in that meeting. Every now and then we can meet with Sonny, but not in that open discussion that they will be having.
What will be discussed, Charlie? Anong i-discuss?
Sa ano? Basically,
Doon
what Kasani...
Sa meeting na gusto mong ipagawa kila Kasani, anong pag-uusapan nila?
What Kasani presented is essentially their discussion that's their discussion paper.
So anong magiging resulta ng kanilang meeting?
An agreement na. Ito ang mga posibleng mangyari. If these are the things that can really happen, what do we do? And as I said, the first step that you need to do is you organize your forces. What forces are you going to organize? That's the reason why you have to have an inventory. You must also have be able to say exactly where they are, because yung response mo may need movement of forces.
So ngayon na Charlie, in effect, ang sinasabi natin dito, ang effort at saka lahat ng gagawin para matuloy ang November 30 meeting na ito ay manggagaling sa grupo ni Kasani. Tama ba ako?
We're supporting. In other words, as directed in the last meeting, I have already nominated a representative from our side. And as I said, Kasani, ano ka na ba? Were you contacted already by our representative?
Yeah, I'm getting some contacts already, and if I may try to explain what you are trying to say, Charlie, for the purpose of understanding with Prof. Hill. In effect, Prof. Hill, Charlie is saying that they cannot be actively participating in a coalition of the common because they are candidates themselves. They are, however, willing to participate actively and intensely toward the goal of identifying the realities and possibilities of several events. So if you were in a blackboard, there are 5 events that you must consider. What you do with every event? That means our group. And so, tama din yung sabi niyo, Prof. Hill, I may not be able to do it myself. I will need assistance, logistics, and everything to be able to meet on this every day. I am willing to meet on this every day until I will receive the funds that I am waiting to start my own revolution in the countryside, which is organizing 1,000 farm families to produce rice for this country on a multiple of 100, 1,000, and everything. Of course, that's my own revolution, and you are invited. You are free. You are free to join me anytime. But before that kind of revolution, we now have before us a political maturity revolution. We must now mature. We must now mature, and I'm willing to sacrifice 30 days of my life for this. But of course, I cannot do it by myself. I cannot be dancing the tango by myself. I need a beautiful lady to dance with me, for example. Somebody who can make calls to anyone that I need to talk with. Somebody who can give the agenda and invite on the day that we should be talking. So I have developed here what I call a 10-step process. First step is grouping. Like Charlie is saying, we will draft a manifesto to get the grouping together and submit the same paper to Comelec so may target na tayo. Ibig sabihin, may ibon na tayo. Okay, if I may continue, Mr. Speaker. Hello.
Attorney Serapio, just a moment.
No, can I continue muna? So, Attorney Charlie, so grouping, following your suggestion, manifestation, following your suggestion, reality check, following your suggestion, and then a possible action. So the next step would be a caucus to be able to do that. The next would be a dialogue step. The next would be maybe an action now, a Comelec run, or maybe somebody out there in front of Comelec reading every position paper and everything that needs to be read in front of the Comelec so that they will take away their 10 billion padded vote. Another step that we may agree on until we come to the final step, until we come to the 30 November activity, to be able to agree on something that we must do with 5 different or 6 different scenarios that may happen to our beloved country. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. For the moment, I'm willing to listen to any suggestion.
Okay, Attorney Serapio. Attorney Serapio, reaction.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I have to apologize. I was not actually interpret. I didn't know that I was not muted. I was talking actually to my driver there. Anyway, I think I can follow already the steps and the process that Kasani is suggesting. If I may just recommend or suggest, Kasani, can you include also the most, the election scenario also that can happen? In other words, the regular process, because we're going to have an election, the process is going to be completed, there's going to be a winner, and the winner is going to be actually accepted by the people as well as by the institutions. So that's also a scenario to prepare for. Because in the case of candidates like ours, the original idea of a coalition among minority candidates and minority political parties is, if at a certain point in the campaign we see that one is more viable than the other, then we may just decide to join forces so that we have a better, not just a better showing, but a good chance of influencing the results of the elections. So that may be the most conservative one and the most, you may say, peaceful one, no? Rather than the other eventualities that you have also you have also discussed. So yun ang ano dyan.
Mr. Speaker, can I have that?
Point of clarification pala. I directed to the Speaker, Prof. Hill. Mr. Speaker, Engineer Lorque,
Go ahead.
I look at the list of registered political parties. I did not see KDP there in the list, certified list that was released by the Comelec. One reason, I suppose, is because you are in the process of changing your party name, right? But at the same time, I saw that in the certified list of political parties, KDP was no longer among them. What is the reason for that?
Well, I don't know yet, but we have to discuss that maybe this week or next week before November 15. So prior to the November 15, we will know what will be transpired in our list.
So do
I have no idea yet so whether or not our party was recognized, but you know, that was started by Rappler, that they did not declare the PDP, but instead they declared that we are independent. I don't know why.
Okay. So, but in the list that you received, do you validate that?
In the list we received, what was mentioned there is that me and both Valdez is independent. I don't know why. I don't know why that was the report. When in fact, our COC, it is very clear that our party is katipunan ng Demokratiko Pilipino.
Yeah, and in the previous communication that we received from the Comelec, KDP was among the political parties which were listed. However, in the last one that they sent to us, KDP was no longer listed as
Well,
among those in the.
I leave that to our lawyer if what will be the reaction of our lawyer.
Okay.
I'm
I
not in the
just wanted
position to say that to say that at this point.
Mr. Speaker, in that connection, Mr. Speaker, in that connection on the inquiry of Charlie, I'd like to do a litmus test among us now. Okay, there are two vice presidents we're talking with. That's Engineer Lorque and Charlie. Okay, let me just ask, if we go through this process of coalition and as suggested by Charlie, maybe there might be a chance for us to have a common candidate, a common president among the 5 groupings that we have, and a common vice president. Of course, Engineer Lorque would like to be designated as the common vice president for all of the 5, no, everyone, and so with Charlie. So if I may ask Engineer Lorque, because I've known him much shorter than Charlie. I believe I know the thinking of Charlie. So I know what we would be answering to my question. My question is, if by the realities that we have agreed on as to what will happen a priori, meaning before election, and post priori after election, and that we have decided that we must target on the Comelec, take away the padre vote, for that, so that everyone will get to know us, and then eventually announce that we now have a common candidate from among the minor presidential organizations. Would you be open to that, Engineer Lorque, that your KDP, even if it's not listed, maybe will now be part of that circle of 5 that will now elect among themselves after the coming up with the common denominator to pursue a certain program that is common to everyone, and that will be eventually good for the country and for its people. Would you be open to such a activity which may happen and which we can announce even on November 30 if necessary?
Well, that's too early to answer because the expectation that you intending to is November 30. So all I could say is that we have to wait until November 15 what will transpire as far as our party meeting is concerned. At this moment in time, it's too early to reply to the question. But because the intended coalition meeting is November 30, so I think before that, November 30, you will know that.
It's too early, but maybe you can extend my question to your presidential board. Will he be willing to sit down with the coalition of the commons towards this possibility?
As far as I mentioned earlier, so long as we obey the Constitution, PDP is amenable to that. Outside the Constitution, that is not our intention. Our very intent is within the provision of the Constitution. That's all. Prior
Mr. Speaker.
to the adoption of a parliamentary system.
Mr. Speaker,
Okay, go ahead.
kung lang realistic lang, reality check. I think ang minimum goal natin sa coalition of the commons is the word commons is for the ordinary groups to come together, right?
Yeah.
And to have a common message as well in terms of what is not being articulated by the mainstream candidacies. One is, with the exception of BBM, because he attacked the Comelec a little bit earlier on this campaign because of his past protest on the BP question, right? no other candidate is criticizing the Comelec. And so one of the minimum goals we want in this commonality, this coalition of the commons, is to create a statement criticizing the way our elections is dominated by the cheating systems of Smartmatic and Comelec. Yan ang isa nating common message na gustong ilabas. The second is to communicate that our solution to the systemic corruption of the country is systemic vigilance through the shift of parliament. Therefore, framing our support of parliamentarism as a solution to the main problem of corruption in the country. Because we should not frame it as a constitutional amendment issue or a constitutional change issue. It should be framed as a solution to corruption. That is the second message that's very important. Although we'll be talking about the same thing, shift to parliament, which will need constitutional change, it has to be presented as a solution to systemic corruption. That's the second message we have to do. The third message we have to do is to be able to have a common approach to the immediate problem of what? What is the immediate problem? The pandemic and the economic recovery. I think that is the only minimum common messaging that we can do. I don't think we will have the capability or we will have the meaningful process of trying to put together a coalition with a common candidate or a common slate. We cannot have that. We can have a common statement. The candidacies will proceed the way they are. It's up to the Comelec to say who will continue or who will not. But what we can do only is that a common messaging that will be signed by the minority parties, which is not being said, which will emphasize certain aspects of the political message that are being discussed, which is not being mentioned by mainstream candidacies. To me, that is the realistic achievement that we can look forward to in doing this exercise of forming the coalition of the commons. That is my take on this.
Okay, may I respond to that, Mr. Speaker? I think it's now an hour of discussion towards a goal that we would like to do at the end of the month. Okay, I agree with Prof. Hill that we should not be thinking of a common candidate. We should be thinking of a common statement. Di ba? I got it right? And then we should be thinking of a common solution outside of the political spectrum. Tama po, Prof. Hill?
Yes.
Okay, and therefore the coalition of the commons should now be thinking of a common system that should be supported by the 5 candidates, minus the majority candidates. At least the minority presidentiables and parties should be agreeable that parliamentary system, if they win in the election, is something that they must promise to the people. Do I get it right, Prof. Hill?
Yes.
Okay, so now opening my argument now to this is, I agree to this, but this could be the scenario. The scenario could be that President Digong might be eliminated before election. The popular candidate, and I will not mention, might be eliminated before election. Are we not meeting now on this coalition of the common to know what to do a priori, or meaning before the election, and then later agree on what to do post priority after election? That would be the way I see it. But that would be an interesting basis for our caucus, our dialogue, our discussion, and our Comelec run and our common statement. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Well, to my point of view, if that is the case, I doubt the protector of the people will come in. The military and the BNP and the military as protector of the people, I doubt they will come. If that will be the case. But I don't like also that the military junta to be implemented. So that is the important scenario is must be discussed as to whether or not what particular of intervention by the military has to be done. Okay, Attorney Serapio, your
No. Sorry, am I not muted also? I was not actually raising.
Professor Hill, any reaction to that?
Well, my on the hypothetical scenario which Kasani just said, kung mamatay si Digong at saka kakandidato, magiging incumbent si Lenin na president at mandadaya sa eleksyon, anong gagawin natin? Okay? Ang pangalawa, patayin o mamatay si BBM, anong gagawin natin? I think the only thing that we can do as a coalition of the commons is to create a statement which is highlighting these possibilities.
Oh.
Naligaw
na tayo?
Hello?
Huh?
Hindi ka muted. Naliligaw si Mr. Serapio. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, Kasani, we have no capability to respond in a military way or in a armed forces way to these scenarios you painted. What we can do is just use the power of words and just make a common statement that we are aware that these possibilities can happen and that this is the possible position we will take. We will not tolerate it. We will talk about it, and we will discuss it to the people. But this will definitely not be tolerated. A cheating scenario of an incumbent Leni Robredo after Digong dies in office cannot be tolerated. A process of killing the popular candidate Bongbong Marcos will create a reaction, may create a reaction, which we will foster because that cannot be tolerated in our political system. I think that's the only things we can do at this point. To
Mr.
prepare
Speaker,
a messaging process to the people kung ano ang pwede nating reaction sa mga bagay na yan kung mangyari.
Mr. Speaker,
Okay.
I agree with Profil on that. We should go as far only as a statement. I agree with you also saying that we should never think, even in iota in our mind, that the military will be supporting us. So these are the realities in our group. Now, another scenario is...
No, I am not saying that the military will support us, but as far as the mandate of the military in the Constitution is concerned, so the military as protector of the people, they can come in. And we have nothing to do with that if they come in. Because that was written in the Constitution. So
Yeah,
what I mean
we can make that as part of this statement only to the extent making a statement about it, taking note of it.
It can be part of a scenario. It can be us creating now the scenario by which the military could come in. But of course, we should not be talking about that now. We are not expecting it. Maybe we should be talking about it face to face and get some resource persons from the national defense, national security, and all these things.
right,
Because I am afraid.
Reaction as far as your question is concerned, personally to me.
We go to another possible action that we may be able to generate. You know, in life, there's what they call the cause and the effect. If you want an effect, then you must come up with a cause. Parang panliligaw yan. Gusto mo sasagot nung dalaga sa'yo. Kailangan mag-isip ka. Bakit kanya sasagutin? Tama ho ba, engineer?
Yes, correct. But
Okay,
as
so-
I mentioned earlier, the Constitution being the supreme law of the land, so the provision of the Constitution states that military are protector of the people. So if there is something wrong with the people, then the military will have to protect. Am I right?
Oh,
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think can I suggest that We recognize the other people here who have not yet spoken or always with us. Michael Alunan is here with us. So with Jingle Tamayo. And we have a new person who has not spoken at all, which is two people, Mirna Naan Pardo. Maybe we should ask them what they think about what we have been discussing so that we can be grounded in terms of what the common people think about what we are discussing right now regarding the possible scenarios that we're talking about in the coming electoral exercise. Like, that is a significant scenario, like the dying of President Duterte and the taking over of Leni Robredo as an incumbent, and then manipulating the polls to win the election, which her group has done before in the vice presidential contest with Bongbong. The other scenario we're talking about, where an assassination attempt is, or an assassination of Bongbong happens, is also another thing that we have to ask the people who are here what their possible reactions are. Kasi, ganito yan eh.
So, let's start from Naan Pardo. Naan Pardo, can you please unmute and give your reaction?
Yeah, I don't know how to unmute her. Nag-unmute siya.
Nag-unmute siya, pero Naan. Okay.
Hello?
Okay,
I'm sorry, hindi pa po. Kakapasok ko lang po kasi.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a moment.
Kasi, ano ang tingin ni Jingle Tamayo? Jingle.
Good morning po sa lahat. Pasensya. Hindi ako makapag-open ng camera. Ang masasabi ko lang po siguro.
Ba't hindi ka nagbe-video?
Hindi ka nakapamulbo.
Hindi kasi ako nakalupistic. Hindi ako nakalupistic kaya hindi ako para ayaw mag-open ng video. Okay, ang sasabi ko lang po kasi sana, siguro naman, huwag na natin antayin na ang mga ganyang anticipation natin is mangyayari. Mas maganda siguro kung agapan natin na ma-change lahat ng system. Like itong sinusulong na to, hindi ko rin alam kung paano kasi as an ordinary citizen, wala tayong idea dyan. So, yun ang ano ko lang sana na kung there's a way na mapalitan lahat ng sistema sa gobyerno, lalo-lalo na itong mawala itong mga connection natin sa international, connection natin dito sa mga oligarchs na sila na nagko-control. I think yan ang pinaka-the best na kailangan natin solusyonan. Kasi kung mga, lalo na itong mga kandidato natin, may mga pro at saka mga anti, hindi natin masisiguro kasi pag pera na rin natin itapa sa kanila, I'm sure na they will go with the flow na rin naman to support what is the agenda of the international oligarchs.
So,
International oligarchs.
Jingle, being a sovereign state, do you agree that we must remain independent?
We better, in my own opinion, I think we better independent. Kasi we have out of resources sa buhay sa bansa natin. Kung ang kabuhayan at pamamalakad ng bansa natin, ifo-focus natin dito, ifo-focus sa mga ordinaryong tao at ifo-focus lang nila na may malasakit sa kapwa-tao nila, sa kapwa nila Pilipino, I'm sure hindi magugutom ang Pilipinas.
Tama.
Kung aasa lang tayo sa ibang bansa na sila lang di magsusuhol sa ating mga politiko, walang mangyayari sa atin. Kaya dapat ang unang puputulin natin ang connection sa international. Yun lamang po. Thank you.
Okay, Professor here.
No, there are people raising their hands. You should recognize them.
Okay, Michael Alunan. CJ Villalos. Carlo, mamaya ka na.
Sige, pasalitain natin yung isa. Pasalitain natin sila.
Scam po ang vaccine. No to vaccine. Hindi po ako naniniwala sa mga COVID and vaccine. Nakakamatay po.
Okay. Kaya
Lang
lang,
po.
hindi natin pinag-usapan yan dito ngayon, although kasama yan later sa pag-uusapan.
Okay, and Carlo, you're raising your hand.
Well, ang isang masasabi ko lang dito is, tama talaga. Magkaisa
Ang-
na tayo dapat dito. Sang-ayon ako na dapat gawin na ito ngayon para malinis na itong bayan natin sa korap na sistema kasi talaga to eh. Kaya, nakakalungkot, kailangan talagang gawin na ito. Yun po muna.
Okay. Michael Alunan. Carlo, can you drop your hand? Michael?
Michael Alunan might not be, he doesn't have audio. So he cannot comment because he's using an old computer. That's what he said. So anyway, we have another round of opinions of what we talked about. It's different from what we talked about earlier, maybe from either Mirna Siguiente or from Miss Christy Hofer. Is that something that is thinking about, the dying of Digong or the killing of BBM?
Christy Hopper, you recognize?
What will you do if that happens, Christy? You are not.
I'm unmute. Paano? Okay. Actually, the thought never occurred to me na paano kung namatay si Duterte and then take over si Lenny or si Bongbong mamamatay din or whatever. That has not entered my mind until now, no, nung pinag-usapan dito. So that I do not know yet. Everything is just parang all the things we're talking about is quite overwhelming to me. I'll try to process everything, hinay-hinay, pag-aralan. Pero tama, that's really one of the things that is worthy to be considered kasi that's a major factor. Duterte is already very sickly and we do not know what the possibilities are, especially with this COVID going on. So, tama po kayo. Kailangan natin pag-isipan, strategize on what would be the next move. And I will see you next week. I will be joining the Salo-Salo next week so that I can keep myself updated also.
You can coordinate with Kasani Domingo. I think maybe Kasani can send you his number in the chat area so that you can coordinate with him. You're in the Manila area right now, Ms. Hofer, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so makokontak si Kasani Domingo can have a number niya and papadala sa'yo. And you have your Facebook Messenger. Maybe you can also be contacted through that.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for your reaction. And I think your reaction is typical. Nobody's thinking about it. Kasi parang imposible. Pero it is in the realm of the possible and the probable because of the age factor of Duterte and also because of the desperation of the opponents of the BBM, especially with the leading of BBM in the polls right now. They might resort to drastic action, no? Just to be able to stop Marcos from becoming president again. So that is something that people like you are not really thinking of kasi parang okay lang. You know, it's like death. We know that we will die, but when it happens, it's still a shock, you know. So that is something that the people as a polity have to think about so that we can be prepared with some prophylaxis action to be able to deal with the reality once it happens. I think most of us have given their piece, and I think Kasani can perhaps summarize his next actions. And I think Ms. Hofer is thinking na next week ng Salo-Salo. I think it is November 30. So it is still at the end of the month. Yung sinasabi ni Kasani. We will have 3 more meetings in terms of the parang Zoom meetings, November 13 and then 20 and 27. And then November 30 yung physical na meeting sa Antipolo. And these 3 meetings will be used to be able to gather all of the other minor candidacies to join us. I had been inviting Calyodi, what's the last name of Calyodi? Calio de
De
Guzman
Guzman.
to join us, but he has not been responding, no? They've been saying that they have other meetings, as well as Walden Bellio. Have invited also the DPP founder, Luis G. Ramos, who I understand is a second cousin of Fidel V. Ramos. I am no relation, although I'm a Ramos. I have no relation to that family. But I was inviting him to come to us and talk to us, but he has been sickly lately, so he has not responded. So this process of inviting the other candidacies, we will try to do in this coming 3 meetings, November 13, November 20, and November 27, before the November 30 meeting. Maybe Kasani will have strategized something to invite them into preliminary meetings before the November 30 meeting. We will devote our last 3 meetings before we adjourn Sine Die for the year, our Congress, so we can have more people attending the group of Kasani on November 30. You have the floor, Kasani, for your reactions.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. So I think this brings us to another stage in our discussion today. All comments are well taken. I'm sure that's recorded also. And I hope that there's a way it can be printed and sent to everyone. I think that's one way to encourage others to join us, because then they have something to read, if I may. So on the next meeting, we should think of a scenario where there should be an election, no matter what happens. So let's say Digong dies, Lenny comes in, BBM will still continue to be a candidate, but then there will be a scenario where BBM will be incapacitated, so only Lenny is left and Lacson. And so next meeting we should discuss what should we be in to when only Lenny and Lacson is left to play the game. Of course, there's still the 5 presidentiables that are with us. Is it not a good reason enough? That's my question. For them to have and agree to a common goal, a common platform, a common denominator, and a common candidate to match the power of Lenny and to match the power of Ping Lacson. That is a possibility. If we want an election, we must be ready for that also.
Why,
Thank you for that.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask Kasani why he does not consider Isko Moreno as something who will survive?
It's something that is questionable for me. I don't know for others. But when you have a candidate that is supported by a non-oligarch, what can you do with it?
Yeah, he has, Isko Moreno has good numbers, right now. So he might, survive.
But my response is that he's a good candidate. I think he's a good person. I think he has good intentions. The problem is he is being supported by a few oligarchs, and we are not talking about candidates being supported by oligarchs. We are talking about candidates being supported by the people, by their party, by whatever.
You also did not mention Pacquiao. You don't think his candidacy will survive the process?
Yeah,
Manny Pacquiao. You didn't mention Manny Pacquiao. You only mentioned Lacson and Lenny Robredo.
Please unmute.
Radar yet for the moment for our discussion, but of course, if you would like me already to them to be included in the radar, then let's talk of it on the next session. It's now a fight between Lenny and a combination of Lacson, Manny Pacquiao, and Isko together against Lenny, right? But then if there will be a process of elimination, they could be eliminated easily from the equation. What I'm trying to get us is to encourage our group to really come up and be part of the equation. Of course, that is a thinking that is possible in the future. But it's, of course, it's open to everyone. That's only my comment for the moment, because sometimes it's hard to consider all other factors coming in. First, we must concentrate on the cause of a possible effect that we want. We want a parliamentary system. And who could be against or for the parliamentary system? Among all of them that will be left after Marcos and Digong, no one, not one of them, will be for parliamentary system. That should be where we should begin. That is the answer to my question. Where do we begin and when do we begin? When we agree, where do we begin? That's it. When do we begin is a job that needs to be done. And I hope that if the secretariat will be set up, I would be willing to set it up somewhere in Antipolo where we have a repeater, and we can use the rent a radio, and we can go all the way to Basilan, to Solo, and have a contact with all possible coordinators and supporters that we have, and come up with a network, an intelligence network that we need earlier than anyone else. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I have the floor?
Yes, okay, go ahead.
What I can do, which can be helped by the people here who are our regular attendees in the plenary, I will try to set up what I call a virtual organization in the using Google Works and a virtual corporation or a virtual office, which can assist Kasani Domingo in coordinating all of these things. I will set it up so that people who will help in the effort can have a log-on password. They can log on. And they log on to Google Work, they will have access to all of the software that can be done, including virtual phones, to be able to call people. I'll set it up so that you log on, and then you can say you will work for maybe 3 hours a day, and you will be given a schedule. You log on at the time, and then you log off after that. And there will be Google Drives to be able to put in files easily. And this is what I'll try to set up within 1 week's time. I might not be able to do that, but I will be working on it starting now. And on November 13, we will be 2 days away from the November 15 decisions of these people who will do substitutions. So by November 13, hinug na yung mga rumors na yan, kung sino yung magsasama, sinong matitirang mga presidentiables, at saka kung sino-sino pa. Ngayon, ang mangyayari dyan is that we have to create this virtual group, this virtual office, kasi this is the only way that we can organize our asymmetric time. Because not all of us can be together at the same place at the same time, and more or less can log on at the same place at the same time. But there is a record of what is being done in a virtual office and a virtual file that can be shared and worked on. Then that is something that we can perhaps move on so that we create a virtual reality, a virtual cooperative teamwork among the people who have been with us for a long time, and all of the 6 months of our meeting in the plenary sessions that we have. So it is something that we can look forward to as a way to respond to this problem of distance and the asymmetric time that we can devote to what we're doing. So I don't know how successful I would be to be able to do that within a week's time, but I will try my best to get that set up to assist Kasani in his effort right now. So we will have a virtual organization that you can log on to anytime you want to work on things that are for the purpose of bringing out and bringing together the coalition of the commons.
By the way, Kasani,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
because,
Mr. Speaker,
on November 13, we might have a press conference with the PDP. And then, kung mayroon akong signal, baka maka-attend kami. Pero kung wala, I might not, or I might be coming late on next Saturday.
Well, if there's a press conference of the KDP, we can also perhaps monitor that, and we can perhaps share your screen about your press conference, and so we can put it up and some listen to you. during our Zoom meeting. You can set that up with the KDP people. I think they have some good tech people who can set that up so that we can share your screen in the meeting that we'll be having when you have your press conference. I think your press conference will be 1 hour. Our plenary sessions last for 4 hours, so we can accommodate whatever you want to do during that period of time. So you talk to your KDP people that we want to be able to log on to your system or borrow your screen and project it and share it here. You share it, you can log on to us, you have your press conference, you share your screen, so we'll be able to listen to what you're saying. That's what we can do on November 13th for the KDP. So there are other things that perhaps other people would like to comment on. They're free to comment on that. Ms. Mirna Siguiente, Mr. Speaker, has not said anything yet about the dying of Tigong or the killing of BBM scenario.
Okay.
Ms. Mirna,
Siguiente or
unsa may sulti sa mga Cebuano sinangpan, mamatay si Digong at mamatay si BBM. Ano man?
Okay. On my perspective, parang hindi ako ganun ka negative sa lahat ng mga bagay. So I'm not to the idea that may mamatay or whatever, may mga mandadaya, or kasi naniniwala ako na kung ang tao ay may conscience pa, lahat ng mga bagay na yan ay parang man-neutralize. So doon ako wala akong comment tungkol doon kasi parang ayaw kong isipin na mayroong mga ganoong mangyayari. Kaya, okay, so, thank you naman. At kahit pa paano may ideya at clear and loud and clear ang mga pinag-uusapan natin dito sa group meeting ngayon. And I think malaki ang maitutulong nito for education and awareness sa lahat ng mga tao na pwede nating touch or ma-share ang mga nangyayaring usapin dito ngayon. Ganun lang. Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Pero Miss Perna, kung mangyari yun, mamatay sa Digong, anong reaction mo?
Maybe parang iisipin ko na lang na it's God's will. That's how I will think.
Tapos pag manalo si Lenny dahil dinaya si BBM, anong isipin mo?
Tungkol naman doon sa mga ganoong di ba, mandadaya, ang akin naman doon ay paano, anong dahilan para gano'n ang gagawin? Kung may konsyensya kang tao, bakit mo gagawing mandaya ka, di ba? So hindi ko masyado pinadidipen yung aking mga isipin tungkol diyan dahil sa panahon ngayon na napaka-stressful.
Bigyan kita ng ideya, Mirna. Bigyan kita ng ideya. Yes. May more or less 10 million padded voters sa Comelec.
Tama, may
yan. Ano makomento mo?
May ideya din, meron din akong ideya tungkol diyan yung mga padded voters. But then to my point na parang mahirap i-prove. Mahirap i-prove kasi wala naman tayong pinahahawakang mga dokumento. We are not sure about it.
Meron si Professor Hill. Meron siya na dokumentong hawak.
And if ever mayroon naman, siguro sa nangyayaring parang nagba-viral yung mga ganong usapin, magkakaroon siguro ng isipin na huwag gagawin dahil siyempre ang taong bayan ng magiging kalaban pagka nangyari yung mga dayaang ganoon.
Kaya diba, yan ang katanungan. Yan ang tanong. Ano ang iyong sa isip kung halimbawa mangyari yan? Kasi naka-reserva eh.
Sa ngayon, parang hindi ko alam kung anong aking i-comment kasi wala pa akong masyadong malaking dahilan para isipin yon. Pero kung mayroon talaga, edi mananagot ang dapat mananagot pagdating ng oras, di ba?
Okay, Ma'am Wilma.
Mr. Speaker.
Ma'am Wilma, muna, ano ma-comment mo dyan? Dahil may balak na i-invite kay Professor Hill. Unmute please.
Gaya, sir, engineer, gaya nung pinadala ko sa inyong message na containing several pages. Ang scenario dyan po ay military takeover. Sabi ko, the military is aware. Ang nangyayari, that's why they decided held a meeting and decided what to do during that untoward scenario po, sir. I said this succinctly in the Armed Forces profile what is to be done po. But it's a long process, kaya bahala na po kayo. Opo. Ay, si military takeover po. Kasi magulo ng tao, it needs yung iron fist to control them. So that when everything is all right, we can proceed to an election po. And it says in that pamphlet that one senior policymaker must be there in Malacanang and 5 others policymakers. Ganun po. And I think our shadow president, Professor Hill Ramos, can do the job. Just in case po. That is all muna.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. Yan, si Jingle, gusto mong salita.
Okay, Jingle.
Yes, that's what the...
Tuwa si
Oh,
Jingle
yes,
po,
sir.
ikaw ang presidente.
Gusto ko lang sana tanong kay Ma'am Wilma. Paano po tayo magkakaroon ng military takeover? Kasi kung ang military mismo, hawak din ng gobyerno. Paano po?
Tama.
Coordinator yan, coordinator ng military.
Ma'am Wilma, baka gusto mong sharean kami, hindi naman. Baka malay mo bang may mga makarinig dito at ma-encourage din to support our, di ba, para si kabubuti din na lahat. Ma'am Wilma Manzanillo.
Kaya nga po, the military instructed me to choose words that is magaan sa damdamin ng taong bayan. That's why I did it. Hindi yung sabihin mo, martial law, the people do not like it. So I said, introduction to idealistic military governance po. Sila lang bahala.
Okay.
I'm just a medium. Channel lang po ako.
People's Initiative. People's Initiative. Pero kung mag-parliamentary.
Okay.
Idealistic military governance. And then after that, any form of government like the parliamentary can be pushed through po.
So if the military will take over, that is not people's initiative. That is military takeover.
Kasi may chaos nga po, yung scenario na yan, kasi I stated in the message na if Lenny shall have the seat in Malacanang, they know the background, they know what to do. Ganun lang po.
Super neutral, Ma'am Wilma.
Opo po.
Okay, Carlo, you're raising your hand. You want to say something?
I'm only a channel po kasi. And what they want me to say, I discuss in public. Ganun lang po.
Carlo?
May I recognize now, because I want to ask them po si Ma'am Christy po, if the CDCPH po can join the coalition group.
Yun ang tinatanong mo, Carlos?
Si Miss Christy po.
Anong tanong mo?
Na-mute po ako.
Okay, andot ka na.
Okay. Anong possible na agenda na point of view ninyo para maisama rin sa mga document po? Miss Christie?
Sino ba tanong mo?
Si Miss Christie Hoffer po.
Umalis na siya, umalis na.
Nandiyan po.
Nandiyan pa siya. Anong tanong mo? Aklaruhin mo yung tanong mo.
Okay. Ang tanong ko dito is, kung makasama natin ang CDCPH sa gagawing coalition of the commons ito, ano po yung mga possible moves na pwedeng gawin ng ating coalition po in terms of public health?
Well, in terms of public
Wala
health,
naman sa
then
topic yun.
Go ahead po.
That's out of the topic, Carlos.
it has to be parliamentary. So I don't know yet kung paano natin. I don't know how we can put those two together. So far, hindi ko pa makita anong common denominator. But maybe we can think about the common denominator later on. But as of the moment, sa parliamentary, gusto ko muna pag-aralan. I would like to study it more. Tsaka yung federal, medyo nalilito pa ako sa federalism and parliamentary form of government. I would have to dig in. Kasi daddy ko, he really wants federalism. This was like way before, 80s pa, 1980s. Pero pag-aralan ko, and yun lang, that will be the time that I can maybe come up with inputs kasi medyo lutang pa ako.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, can we go back to the topic and I can respond to Profil? His offer for a command center. Mr. Speaker, salamat sa offer ni Profil. That's what we really need. We need a digital virtual office in Antipolo to serve as a command center. And we need widescreen apparatus to see the status of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao on the event that we would like to monitor. We would like to be connected by radio, by shortwave radio, to everyone interested to feed us information on all of this. And so a command center would enable the secretariat of the coalition of the common to come up with a common topic that can be discussed every week. I am willing to sit on that command center. Basta yung upuan wag lang matigas naman. A swing chair where I can swing to any direction and see what's the voting population of that area, who are leading in that area. And then what is the status of the candidates? Where are they? What seems to be bothering them or what seems to be favoring them? All these things. I think a command communication virtual center would be our best bet to be able to influence even public opinion and work towards AIDA. Kilala ho niyo si AIDA, Engineer Lorque? Tumawa ka. Kilala mo yata si AIDA. Anyway. Awareness, interest, desire, and action. So the command center profile, if you can do provide us all those communication systems that we need.
Para yung Professor Casanel, para yung strategy ng pandiligaw. You must make the woman aware of your interest and your desire and your action.
Yes. So we now go aware. They will get interested with us and they will join our weekly fora. And then they will desire now to participate. That's the only way we can do. And do the action that will be needed. I am happy na positive naman ang ibang kasama natin dito. They think that such thing will never happen. But of course, sabi sa management, if equipment goes wrong, it will go wrong. Ibig sabihin, bumili ka ng kotse, sabi sa iyo, bilhin mo na ito, hindi masisira ito. Pero alam natin na merong masisira dyan sa kotse na yan. So masisira pa rin. Yun lang. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, can I have a rejoinder?
Okay, go ahead.
That's Murphy's law. No? Murphy's law says that if something can go wrong, it will. So we are not pessimistic about things, but when you plan for things, you always have to plan for the worst scenario so that you can cope with something that is better all the time. Now, going back to the question of military intervention, it is written in our constitution that the military can come in as protectors of the people. So I think that is what Wilma Manzanillo, Miss Wilma, has entertained and has posited with us. Ngayon, ang isang bagay na reaction ng mga Pilipino is that yung military masama, yung kudita masama. Kasi yun ang indoctrination sa atin, demokrasya daw okay. Pero demokrasya natin is not real democracy kasi manipulated nga ang mga resulta. Ang masasabi ko is that civilian supremacy over military authority is only justified if the civilian mandate comes from a legitimate, honest election. If the civilian mandate is a manipulated mandate, the military has no obligation to respect civilian supremacy because the civilian tribunes are not properly elected by the people. Therefore, in a scenario like, for instance, sinabi ko na, noong 2010, nandaya ang Comelec Smartmatic. In-expose ito ni Glenn Chong. Marami siyang dokumento tungkol dyan at saka mga video. Pwede niyo makita yan sa internet. Noong 2013, sumumpit yung malaking score ni Grace Po. Lampas pa sa bilang ng mga kandidato, ng mga boto. Tapos sabi ng computer Comelec, Smartmatic, lang daw yan, computer glitch. Tapos ang isa pa, nagkaroon ng 60-30-10 percentage of sharing yung boto ng 60% for the administration sa senador, 30% sa mga opposition, at saka 2%, 10% sa mga independent. Yan ang mangyari 2013. So manipulated na naman. Noong 2016, nakita natin, meron nga tungkol yan, yung overnight, 1 hour, within the midnight hour, within 3 hours, napasan yung 1 million na lamang ni Bongbong. Nung makialam yung Smartmatic sa pag-ayos ng NIE, kunyari. Noong 2019 naman, naging minanipulate naman ang ranking ng mga senador. Nagkaroon ulit ng interruption. Noong 2016, nag-interrupt, no? Nagkaroon ng interruption sa bilangan. Noong 2019, inulit ulit. Nagkaroon ulit ng interruption. Okay? 2019. At saka naging top-notcher na kaagad si Cynthia Villar. Although ang totoong top-notcher noon ay si Bongo. Sunod si Bato kasi ang lakas ng kampanya ni Digong. Pero niyari ng Comelec yung ranking kasi nagbayad si Villar ng malaki. Binili niya ang number 1 rank. Kung talagang popular si Villar, dapat presidential candidate siya ngayon. Pero since manipulated lang yung resulta niya bilang number 1, hindi siya pinag-uusapan bilang presidential candidate. If the popularity were real, it is a manufactured popularity paid for by the Villar oligarchy. So, now, what do we learn from this? For instance, if the count is again interrupted in 2022, I have asked my friends in the military, you should launch a coup d'etat and take over the Comelec because that should not be tolerated anymore by the people. Pero when I discuss this idea of mine sa most of the common people, merong reaction yung Pilipino against sa coup d'etat. Okay? Parang masama talaga ito. But I have explained, pag ginagago yung process ng pag-elect ninyo, pag-elect natin ng ating civilian authorities, the civilian supremacy will no longer hold kasi dinaya lang yung kanilang mandato. At may problema rin ako nang kinusap ko ang mga military. Yung mga military kong kaibigan, sabi ko magkudita kayo. Hindi, sabi niya magkukudita lang kami kung lumabas na yung mga tao sa lansangan. Yung military, may pagkabobo ng konti sa pag-intindi ng kudita. Ang isip nila yung model ng EDSA. Kailangan bago sila mag-kudita o mag-take over, kailangan may mga tao sa lansangan. Ang totoong kudita, wala niyan. Ang kudita, walang tao sa lansangan. Basta take over yung military, isang grupo take over sa palasyo ng head. I-isolate nila yan. I-take over lahat ng bangko para hawak ang lahat ng bangko ng pera. I-take over yung lahat ng mga broadcast installation. Pati internet, papatayin yung pan para walang pan. Yan ang totoong kudita. Walang people power. Kung gaguhin tayo ng Comelec at Smartmatic, ang suggestion ko sa military, magkudita ng ganyang klaseng kudita. It's called golpe de Estado. And I said, you're justified in doing it because you're doing it to correct the election malpractices that is being imposed on us. Our electoral sovereignty is being assaulted, and your duty as protectors of the people is to protect this electoral sovereignty. And that's what I've been telling you to do. Launch a kudita. Do not wait for people power. Once manggago ulit itong mga electors natin, itong election natin. And that's what I've been telling them. And I also would like to tell the Filipinos, the ordinary Filipinos, we should not be afraid of a kudita. If the kudita is being launched to correct our electoral process. And when the kudita is being launched for the military to impose or to fulfill their duty as protectors of the people, protectors of the electoral sovereignty of the people. And that is what I am trying to say. And that is what we should have as a message in our coalition of the commons. Once we are able to put together a group of candidates, and we are talking about this possible Comelec cheating in the millions of padded voters and in the cheating interruption of the count by the Smartmatics, which they have done in several elections of the past, then we should welcome a coup d'etat with the military. We should not be afraid of it. And that is the message that I would like to involve and put into the message of the coalition of the commons. What do you think of that, Kasani?
Yes, well taken, Prof. Actually, ang dayaan hindi yung kandidatong nagdadaya. Ang Comelec ang nagdadaya. Pag ang Comelec na ang nagdadaya, tama po yung sabi nyo, ibang usapan na yan. So, yun nga, I'd like to work on this as soon as possible, as soon as we can set up a communication center, and so that we can start inviting people. In fact, we can even start interviewing them on our network. If we can do a networking already, and other things which you think you can provide for the coalition of the common as the center point for whatever peaceful activities we may want to do. And of course, we are not here to put in more confusion to our people. Well taken po, maganda yung sinabi ninyo. I hope that we can share also whatever information is done. But if I may again act as a little dictator, Prof. Hill, can you come up already with your position paper on 2 points? One, why the 10 million padded vote should be erased, and two, that there should be a hybrid election, not a Smartmatic election. Meaning in the barangay, we count what is Smartmatic only is what the transmission from the town to the province to the national government. But from the precinct level to the barangay, it should be manual. From the barangay to the town, it should be manual. People should see who is the winner or who is the loser. So they can also collect yung taya nila. Alam ba ninyo sa Ilocos, sa profile, ang usapan doon ng tayaan lupa. Ibig sabihin magpakamatay sila dahil sa kandidato nila. Kaya itaya nila yung kalating hektarya ng tabakuhan nila against kahit na walang 1 hectare na palay. At the end of the day, about 12 midnight, nagpapalitan na yan ng papel. Kinaumagahan, iba na yung may-ari ng lupa. Yung panalo ang may-ari ng lupa ng natalo. Ganyan po kabigat ang eleksyon natin sa Pilipinas. At sana, wag naman umabot sa pagpapatayan na rin. At magpapatayan naman tayo kung hindi natin ayusin itong election na to. This will be the last election of this country. This country will go nowhere after this. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, so far we have 20 minutes more Do you have any topic that you would like to cover before we wind up? Because we'll be winding up soon.
Okay.
Well, as far as
Mr. Speaker, may I recognize Mr. Get be
just
recognized
a
po?
moment, Carlo, as far as what we are discussing today is concerned, as I said earlier, we have to wait for the finality of the candidate's opinion. By the 13th, I think everything will be clear because only 2 days then the subscription will take place. So we will wait for that, and then at the time that we could decide, and because November 30 still have we have time to muni-muni kung ano ang mga gagawin natin. So tingnan natin hanggang November 30 kung ano. Dahil matagal pa naman, but I do suggest that on or after the election, the parliamentary system of government has to be adopted.
Mr. Speaker, let
Go
me
ahead.
explain, Mr. Speaker, let me explain what I mean by the virtual corporate seats that we will be creating with Google Works.
Okay, go ahead.
That is not free. I have to spend something for that, and each seat that I put up there would cost about $5.75 a month. So if we have a staff of 5 people working with Kasani that are logging on to support what this effort are, that would be about $25 a month. So if we are running it for the next period of time from today, November or December, and 6 more months for the elections, we're talking also about that much. That is just the subscription fee. I think there's also a setup fee. But I will shoulder all of that to be able to support Kasani. But we still need like people who will do research for Kasani. For instance, that's why I will be asking Kasani if there is a group there in Antipolo or a college where you can hire research student assistants, maybe students that are majoring in statistics, economics, or politics, no, those 3. And then maybe get 3 of them, and we will hire them on an hourly basis as you research assistants. Anyway, you at the student rates, because that's what we can afford. And give a budget for that, and we will try to raise the funds for that, so that we can do that. Kasi meron kang ang seat sa Google Works at meron kang ganon, but you still have to have somebody to operate it. You have somebody to log on and do research and put files into the Google Drive, do massive email things, do collection of cell phones which you can use for your process of reaching out for messaging. But you will now be at the pinpoint of this with you actually, as you said, hiring 3 beautiful girls as your research assistants. Okay, you must let Carlo Iway approve the girls that you will hire. Where is Carlo? He disappeared already. I'm just kidding. Anyway, that is something that, what is the college that is close
Okay
to
po.
there?
Okay po.
Anyway, Sonny, ano yung malapit na college dyan sa'yo, sa Antipolo?
Yeah, my daughter is a professor of the STI. It has a beautiful building. Maybe we can even set it up there, rent the space from them, so that the students will not have to go far. And then, by the way, talking of a corporation, maybe God has guided me to organize a corporation to do something like this many years ago. My incorporators were president of an advertising agency. He has gone ahead, of course. The other one is the biggest pharmaceutical company in the world, in the Philippines, which is Mercury Drug. They are both presidents. I am president of my own organization. The 3 of us organize what we call now the Center for Research, Planning, and Strategic Studies. It is a shell corporation, not active because it doesn't have any project yet. But you can take over this corporation immediately with whatever funding you may have. We can have it we can have it amended so that you become one of the directors now, board of directors, and whatever you wish to do with the center. Now, this center can even do a quick analysis of who is really the leading candidate in every town, every province, and every region. Thank you.
Okay, I have operations called Survey ng Bayan and also Survey ng Bayan Research. And once you have this corporate shell, we can put these projects under that corporation. So because I will be starting the political presidential surveys again and issue surveys before the end of the year, and also maybe during the start of next year, January, when we restart our plenary session. But right now, we will be busy organizing the secretariat of our Coalition of the Commons. The Coalition of the Commons idea is something that will outlast the 2022 elections, because it will be the basis for the coalition of different groups that will put together a governing parliament in the coming parliament that we will have. And if, for instance, the realistic expectation that Bongbong Marcos will win and he will proceed towards parliament, this Coalition of the Commons will lobby for that. Because definitely, even if Bongbong Marcos promised the shift to parliament or federalism, just in the same way that Digong promised it when he ran for office in 2016, strong reactions from the vested interest of the country will resist, in the same manner that the cabinet of Digong, led by Sonny Domingo, led the revolt against the federalization and the parliament shift and constitutional amendments that Digong was proposing.
Correction, Sonny Dominguez.
Sonny Dominguez.
Not Sonny Domingo.
Well, Sonny Dominguez did that, the valedictorian classmate of Digong. So the reason why we're forming now the Coalition of the Commons is this will be a lobby group after 2022 to fight the vested interest who will oppose the process of shifting the country to parliament. That is why it's a very important step that we're doing. We may be a very small group right now, but as long as we're very clear on what we want to do, as long as we have very realistic goals and a step-by-step process, I think we will be able to achieve what others have failed to do. So we have to be very systematic about it. Let us use the science and the technology available to us. Let us contact the overseas Filipino community that are very frustrated about what is happening to the country and the migrants that have left the country. Contact the Filipino communities abroad in migrant areas, because they are in fact the missing middle class in the country. The middle class
Hey, fuck the Filipinos, fuck the Filipinos, I'll kill them all.
Are out of the country right now. They are out of the country and we have to bring them back.
Shut up, Gil. Shut up. You don't.
In terms of, can you get this guy out, this Donald Gonzalez, and remove him? Okay, who's this guy, this Gonzalez guy? Just a question of removing this.
Can you remove this guy, Gonzalez?
That guy is just disturbing us. So, you know, I just removed him and took him out. Anyway, maybe Mello is not watching the group. Maybe he's not paying attention to us here. I had to do it myself. Anyway, what I was saying is that we have to see and look forward beyond the 2022 elections for what the role of what we are forming would be doing, the Coalition of the Commons. So I would like to share this with you so that looking forward, we do not just say that we are just putting together something that will just be coterminous with the 2022 elections. It is something that we have to started now, which will continue forward until we are able to achieve what we want to achieve. So Kasani, that is your ball game. You are the what do you call this? The Allied Force Commander, and you're planning a June 5 landing in Normandy. So I am just your researcher and your supporter from artillery fire, but you will have to go to the front lines. So, Mr. Speaker, you have any comments and sort of a rounding up process of what we have discussed so far?
We have a few minutes left, so let us hear from Mr. Jonathan, Larry, and Barbie.
Yeah, let us hear from these new people. Let us ask them to speak.
Jonathan, can you please unmute and say something? Next is Larry and Barbie. Any of you can say a word. Okay, Jonathan, go ahead. Jonathan?
Jonathan is not responding, I think. How about Larry or Barbie?
Or Larry and Barbie? You want to share?
Well, so we are...
Okay, Sonny, go ahead.
What are you saying, Sonny?
You cannot unmute.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hello. Yeah. Can we have a historical shot of who participated here? I don't know how you do that, but I know that we can take the picture of everyone that participated here.
Let us see our guy here, Melo, if he is around, you know?
Yes. Melo, can
Melo,
you?
are you there?
Yeah.
It's called a screenshot, but I don't have my screenshot process here right now.
Sonny, I think that is not necessary because you can replay this video and take a shot later on.
That we can do also because we just have to set it up properly so that we can have it. Anyway, this is recorded in our YouTube channel, the 1899 Congress, and you can just do a process of going to the point where we're ending the meeting, and so you can take pictures of that. So, any more further comment from those who are with us? Before Mr. Speaker, are we about to end? Are we a few minutes away?
Yes, let us hear from Miss Christy Hopper. Next is Wilma Manzanillo. Miss Christy Hopper. Go ahead.
Ano pa lang ako, I'm still in the process. I don't have much to share kasi medyo napadpad lang ako this morning. So, everything is, I'm just trying to digest everything. So, not much to share. Wala pa po ako masyadong, alam. I'll have to do more research on this.
Maybe it's too much to digest in one sitting. So
it is too much. Yeah, it's kind of heavy. It's kind of heavy for me.
But anyhow, as you mentioned, you have already idea about what your father is started, and also you.
My dad has. Well, if you are from Mindanao, you will always ever since I was little, Daddy was in logging 70s. They would always talk about federalism. They would always talk about Imperial Manila. This is my daddy's yun yung ano niya, yun yung nasa loobin niya. Even my uncle, my dad was in politics. He was an assemblyman in ARM before, and my uncle was also a vice governor in Sarangani, the younger brother of my dad. They would both talk about wanting to free Mindanao because Mindanao is under the cudgels of Imperial Manila. And the only way to do this is through federalism. I still don't have an opinion on that, a personal opinion, but I will have to study it and then we'll have to come up with a conclusion of my own. And, hindi kasi to federalism, ito pinag-uusapan ngayon, parliamentarism, parliamentary government, form of government. It's something that I will have to get myself acquainted on before I can actually make a commitment. Kasi I would not want to commit myself on anything that I am not so so knowledgeable about. Pag mas marami na akong alam, then I can dive in and get myself more involved.
Okay, thank you. Kaya yan nga na napag-usapan itong parliamentary dahil yan lang ang isa sa paraan na ma-eliminate natin ang corruption. Dahil kita mo naman, 500 years, more or less, nasa presidential system government tayo pero wala nangyari sa bansa natin. Sabi,
hindi 500 years, sir. 1946 lang tayo, Commonwealth, 1935.
No, pero since 1898, 99.
1902, we were under the gobernador, military governors and civilian governors of the United States. 1935, we have our own president.
Mulang 1500 nang nakuha tayo ng Kastila. Sistema natin parang ganun na rin, ang presidential na rin.
We were under the monarchy, yes.
So, ang parliamentary, yan sabi ko na kung may question hour every week, madali natin masugpo ang korupsyon. Kasi kagaya ngayon, kung tanungin natin ang DOH, hindi tayo makatanong. Pwede sila tanungin ng media, pero napasaulon muna sa kanila kung ano ang isagot nila sa mga question ng media. So, that is unfair to us. Unlike kung parliamentary, tayo kung sino ang MP na mabigyan natin ng question na itanong niya, once they cannot answer, that they have no choice but to resign. Dahil wala nang confidence, wala nang trust rating, ang trust rating nila bumaba, wala nang trust ang mamaya sa kanila. So what for na mag-stay pa sila sa position?
Okay, so
you are raising your hand. Please say something relevant to the topic we are discussing right now.
Okay po. Mr. Speaker, may I be recognized po? And I would ask lang po, siguro sa mga sinabi ito ni Sonny, no, magkaroon ng confidence ang bayan natin na maayos ito at magkasama-sama tayong lahat na labanin kong Smartmatic Crime Cheating Syndicate po at Comelec. And before, again po, kaya Sonny,
yeah,
in-inform ko lang po yung iba natin mga kasama, yung mga kasama ko sa GM community at iba pa mga compatriots natin na number more para makasama natin sila sa dadawing coalition meeting po sa November 30. Yun po muna.
You have to unmute, Kasani.
Dinagay ko sa chat yung cellphone number ko, 0917-317-1074. Wag lang ibigay sa nightclub dahil patay ako sa business ko. Thank you.
Po sa nightclub po, sa mga compatriots ko lang po, lang natin po.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Let's now move for adjournment.
Okay, so now it's 11:55 and we are about to end the session.
Yes.
Mr.
Kasani. I move the special session of the Shadow Parliament of 2021 be suspended until next Saturday.
Until next Saturday. I second the motion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. I'll see you again next Saturday, and then let's do that, right?
Baka malate ako sa next Saturday, ha? Pero
that's fine.
I will keep in touch.
Okay, bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
Recording stopped.
Ayun na tayo.